Yo, what's up, people? Hello, what's happening? I got a new camera this week because somebody in the chat last week mentioned the Logitech something or other, whatever model this thing is. So I thought I'd order one and try one because they're not expensive, really. It was under $100. And so tell me right out of the gate, how's it look? Is it working? The mic okay? I'm using the mic on the camera just to give it a try today. But anyways, it seems like it's a pretty cool little camera. It says it's 1080p, but I can't get 1080 anything out of it. It seems like everything defaults to 720 with it, which is fine, you know. I think maybe that's all StreamYard does anyway, 720. So maybe it's 1080 capable or something. Anyways, looks and sounds okay, says Tinkerbell. At least it's in focus, right? Sounds good, looks good. Yeah, I think it's just easy. Easier than what I was doing. So mic quality isn't great, but passable, says Rumble. If I can hook up my other one, but maybe I'll just roll with it today. Just because it's, you know, just do it as a little experiment. And then I can listen back to it later and, you know, listen to what it sounds like compared to my usual scene with the, just one more thing to hook up every week. The microphone, which is great. The mic I use, I like it. The Samson G-Track Pro. Anyways, yeah. Putting the cave in man cave. Yeah, for sure. It's a little dark in here. I'm actually getting some more lights too. I got that one back there, and I'm getting some more for up here and just some different stuff to try and light it up a little more in here in the background. But you know, subtle improvements. So yesterday we did our big pickup filming video. And it went really well. I could show you guys. I should have brought it in here before, but what we did was I had two pick guards made for that guitar, the striped, you know, the Van Halen 78 style guitar, that had it in the bottom where normally like the tone pot would go or whatever. I put an output jack, and that way, out in the other room, there's two pick guards, right? One would be on the guitar, and out in the other room, I had help, you know, from Dave Friedman and another friend named Avi that were switching in and out pickups on the guard, like the second guard, and they could just wire the pickup up to the pot, and then the output jack right on the guard, and then the only thing that had to be connected was the ground wire from the bridge to the back of the pot, and it was made it that much faster, you know, rather than having to connect to an output jack. And it was amazing. We did about, I mean, it was over 20 pickups. And I used the Destroyer too, which was most interesting. I don't want to spoil it, but maybe I will. The Destroyer has TV Jones pickups in it because the fellow from TV Jones used to own the Destroyer I have. And so it came with these TV Jones pickups in it, which I think sound great. And it turns out, because I didn't know what the pickups were, but took the pickup out yesterday and measured it, and it's an 8-point-something K PAF style, I guess. So it sounds terrific in that guitar, whatever it is. But we switched it out for the Super 70 and also switched it out for the Super Distortion, which, you know, if you've seen the Van Halen Shark guitar, it has had a Super Distortion in it ever since it was the Shark guitar, I think. It's got a, now, who knows if you switched the magnet out in it or what, but it's got a double cream looking DiMarzio in the bridge. I'll just say, like, I just don't think that the pickup in the guitar when any of the recording was done was a Super 70. I just don't think so, judging from the tone that I experienced yesterday, putting a set of Super 70s in the guitar and then switching to the Super Distortion. It was really like, it's like night and day, you know? And the Super Distortion just sounds like the tone to me. And that's the other, I learned a lot yesterday doing this whole thing. I mean, I really learned a lot about that. It's not just one sound, it's multiple sounds with two different, really distinct guitars. And when you really get into the album tones and start listening, you realize, like, oh God, it's like so important that you sort of, if you really, and this is super nerdy, but if you want to get the right sound for the right song, you have to use the right guitar for that track, and you have to have the, you know, like, it's just interesting. Anyway, And the also the kind of the 13K. See, Paul says super distortions are too much. No, they're not. Not for Van Halen 1, they're not. For later, they are. You're absolutely right. For later, they are. But for Van Halen 1, you put that pickup in a Destroyer and you play You Really Got Me, and it's like, there's the distortion. It's right there. That's what the sound is. You can just hear it. It's like, well, that's blue and this is yellow. You know, it's that simple. And then when you play other songs with it, you know, later, anything after, you know, Van Halen 2, it's just that on Van Halen 2, that guitar was used too. I mean, I think it's on Light Up the Sky and, you know, some other stuff. I'm just pretty sure anything without a tremolo bar. When you really start listening to those first few records, including the third album, actually, and you listen to the tracks that have no tremolo bar, and he, you know, allegedly borrowed Chris Holmes' Destroyer for that record. Now that may be Super 70s, maybe, because maybe he just borrowed that guitar and it had stock pickups. Who knows? But because it's a little bit different. Anyway, it's got a lot to do, you know, more than just pickups and stuff like that. This stuff has to do with scale length, I think, and glue and neck, you know, set neck guitars as opposed to bolt on, and the difference in the attack and the sound. And it'll become apparent, I think, in the video because in the video I, you know, drop a super distortion into the Strat style guitar, and then I play a few of the tunes that I think were played on the Destroyer. And when you compare, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just a different sound. You know, Les Pauls versus Strats and all that, and how Strats have that more like twangy, you know, attack. They just have that taut twang to them that is part of the Fender kind of sound, you know, as opposed to the Gibson sound, which has this kind of softer, smoother, like, I don't know, it's, you know what I'm talking about. 24 3/4 scale guitars. It's just different. So, anyways. Yeah. What else we got here? No such thing as too hot of a pickup, says Chad. Well, we went all the way from, you know, 8.2K yesterday to, you know, 17K with ceramic. So you can hear it in the video. Hot pickups are really fun. I mean, there's a fun aspect to them where it's just kind of like turning on a distortion pedal. I mean, you're just like kind of nailing the front end of the amp, and there's sustain and feedback, and it's easy. And, you know, with a guitar with low action and a relatively hot pickup and light strings, it just plays itself, sort of, you know, and it's really fun. When you're warmed up, you can just fly. Paul's asking about the fire this week at the Friedman shop. Long story short, everyone's okay. Yeah, it was in the middle of the night, and it's probably been widely reported already, but it was in a back building, so it affected their factory in their area to some degree, but not to the degree where, I mean, it's basically, you know, what happens when you've got smoke and stuff from another thing that was in the next building and affected one wall of the building. So long story short, I'm not sure what they're doing with it, but it's bad. Could have been a lot worse, you know, and everybody's okay, and they're working through it and figuring out what they're doing and stuff. And there's insurance. And so it's just, you know, just a matter of figuring all that stuff out. Up there in the super chat, Humbucker says, for small club volume, 18-watt Marshall with low attenuation versus 50-watt with more attenuation versus DSL 40CR with master volume channel switcher. Well, that would depend on what you're doing as far as tones. If you need a clean channel, because the DSL 40 has a clean channel, right? If you're doing anything kind of funky and you need, like, you know, a cleaner clean. 18-watt, I don't think there's any need for an attenuator with 18 watts and a drummer. I really don't think so. Not unless your drummer's playing with blast sticks or brushes, you know. You're going to need the volume of the 18-watt, in my opinion, with a moderate drummer. You know, to me, an 18-watt is something I would take to a pub and use, you know, at moderate volume with pedals, you know, turned up halfway or to 5 or 6 and roll down for clean. And that's just my opinion. I just lit up Scott's thing there. I didn't mean to do that. So it just, long story short, it just depends on if you need a clean channel and you need enough loop and all that, because I'm sure it has one. The DSL 40 is probably a good idea. The 18 watt would be a great club amp. A 50 watt with attenuation would be great for, you know, having some ability to play bigger stages and stuff like that. And with a power station or something, you could add an effects loop, and you know, have all of the range there that you need, and add your effects and stuff. So it depends on the kind of music you play and what your gigs are, I guess. John says, do you have your UAD Apollo on all the time or turn it off at the end of the day? And, you know, that's an interesting question. I think about that because at home I just leave it on all the time, but it does sit there kind of hot. Sometimes I wonder, like, oh, yeah, the thing's been on for like 4 months. Should I be turning that off if I'm not using it? So sometimes I'll just shut it off at home. Here at my studio, I shut off everything at the end of the day because everything's in a rack and it's all powered by a power conditioner. And I just turn off the master. You know, I shut the computer down every day. I shut everything off every day and then power up again. So that's what I do. And then can I talk about the harmonizer on 1984 compared to 5150? I don't really know. I mean, I think in the early days, it was probably the 910, and then later on the 949, and then later on the H3000. I've sort of tried the different versions of those, at least in plug-in form, and you know, the effects on the H9 pedal, because they've got the various versions of their harmonizer. And, you know, I don't know if I hear like all this tons of difference. If you're doing the, you know, plus minus 9 detune thing, they all seem to do it pretty well. Maybe the earlier ones are a little more subtle or something than the later. Than the H3000. I don't know how to describe it, like what the word is to describe it, but I know in the H9 they've got the 1984 preset kind of right in there, and it does it and sounds great. And I think it's the 949 they use for that. But yeah, long story short, I mean, I think the H3000, you know, any of them will get you there. I think it was just a matter of how, I mean, it's literally the send on the board, you know, like how much they were blending in from record to record to record. I think it was a little less apparent. Like, was it, you know, it's hard on Diver Down, he was using chorus sometimes, like the Boss, which would be probably more like a mono chorus. But the split was starting to happen, you know, earlier on. I mean, where he's dabbling with the harmonizer for sure. Like, so I think it just became more blended in later, but I think it was probably always that detune thing. You know, that's a good question. I'm not really sure, to be honest, like exactly what they did. You know, as far as whether it was always a plus minus 9, you know, it's hard to get it. How do we know, you know? But it just kept, you know, by Panama and stuff, it's creeping into the tone pretty prominently, right? Yeah. So, sorry, that's kind of a non-answer. I wish I had more of an answer, but it's just hard to say. That's an interesting question. T-Top says, have you ever auditioned for a gig, not gotten it, been relieved? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've gone down and played and then come very close to, you know, I remember one in particular where, like, sometimes you'll go down and you'll meet the people in the organization or the artist, and you'll, you know, like, I remember one in particular, it was like pop thing. I went down and did it, and you just get the vibe. Like, sometimes, you know, the artist will be sitting in the back of the room, like now on their phone or something, but back in the day, maybe they'd be like doing their nails or something, you know, and they don't really introduce themselves, and they just kind of sit there. They act like, you know, any of these, you know, I don't really care who's in the band or whatever, like, this isn't important, I've got a photo shoot to go do or something. You get that feel. And then, you know, you get a call back and they're like, and you're just like, yeah, I can already sense that this probably isn't the kind of gig I would want to do, you know. And I remember doing the one I was just mentioning, where it was that kind of vibe, and I made some mistake in one song, but, you know, I did really well, and they were like, yeah, we want to hear you again, come back and play. But, you know, and the manager was like, but get like, you know, make sure you know your part totally this time or whatever. I was just like, fuck off. Like, give me a break. I just was like, I'm not coming back for this thing, you know. He's just such like, whatever he said to me, I was like, oh my God, like, you know, this gig is not for me. I can't, you know, it was like one of those things where I probably went to the bridge in the second chorus or something. I just forgot like where, and I was just laughed it off or whatever, and then got back on the train. It was your first time playing the song, you know, it's a big deal. And he made that quip like after. It was so dumb. It's like super hot in here. So I don't know. Open Nest app. See if I can get this to work from here. No. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I'm just going to change the AC because it's like sweltering in here. Thank you for your patience. The way that we did the AC in this room isn't really, I've got one vent way up there that's fed from the front of the building, and it can be like icy cold up there and it'll just be okay back here. So it's issues. Can you explore the 1984 tone in a video? I can, yeah. I think that's down the road, you know. I wasn't able to do that in this video that we filmed yesterday, and I will edit and get it done here pretty quick. It's too much for one video. Literally yesterday with all the pickups we switched in and out, it was an 8-hour day and we got it done, but we worked 8 hours hard, like ordered in food and just kind of ate while I was working and stuff. It just kept the rotation of the pickups going the whole day and filming the clips. And what I did was I have kind of more of a, like I got my 2 mics coming in, 257s, and I did sort of the Van Halen 1 treatment to them with just a little bit of EQ. And then I did sort of the Van Halen, like from 2 to Fair Warning sort of sounds, which is a darker, slightly darker, warmer thing. And so I filmed clips, two tracks with each pickup, each guitar, kind of playing more Van Halen 1 songs and then more Van Halen 2 songs with each pickup. Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning. And so each pickup had 2 tracks, in other words, right? And all told, at the end of the day, when I did the Destroyer with 3 different pickups and the black and white guitar with like 20 something different pickups, I ended up with 75 tracks of audio. So I've got 75 little clips that I have to match to probably something like 40, no, probably like 30 to 35 clips of video, where, you know, sometimes it's 2 audio clips for each video. So I have to literally go through and like bounce all that out, match up all that, pull it all into like it's got to all come in out of Logic into Final Cut, chop it all up. I mean, it's like days of work, you know, this thing. And it's so geeky and nerdy that I can't even believe it, but it's days of work. So yeah, long story short, some people were saying, I hope you do the 1984 tones and stuff and get into the harmonizer and this stuff. Like, that's another video. And that'll be I will do that video actually, because I have all the Eventide plugins, 910, 949, H3000 and all that. And I want to get into that and do like detailed video. One thing I'll show too is like the H3000, and I might be able to get a hold of a real one actually. I probably can. And let's compare that to the plugin that you can get, you know, use it in Logic or Pro Tools or whatever, and maybe an H9. And let's listen to the sound of the harmonizer with that'd be cool, I think, to do that. You know, that's a whole video, right? Like I could do a recreating that sound thing, like the kind of like the Live Without a Net era tone, maybe, with the, you know, reverbs and maybe, or the not reverbs, but the stereo SD 3000s and all that. I don't know. There's all kinds of things I could do for videos, but you know, definitely something on the 1984 tone is something that I want to do later. Yeah. Yeah. So what about Pete Thorn 3 someday? Yeah. I got to do that. I mean, really, it's just like spending time on all this other geeky stuff takes away from that. And at the end of the day, I should probably just commit. I was talking with my friend the other day, he's a fellow YouTuber, Quist, you guys might know. And we were talking about recording, and I was mentioning that I would love to do a record a little more live, like cut with bass and drums, not do such a layered thing, a little more old school, like play you know, like there's a few tunes like that. Like Dirty Town was done like that, really, off my last record. The middle part I kind of structured and fleshed out and did some more overdubs. But really, the body of the tune is kind of like a live, sort of a little bit more Van Halen style recording with bass and drums, right? Or Satch Boogie or something. You know, that was the kind of the idea that I was going for. So an album a little bit more like that, in that style. Every song done in that style, where I cut the basics in maybe 1 or 2 days. And then just do, you know, so I can make an album in like, just try and make an album in like a month, like just commit to, you know, recording the basics, doing whatever overdubs and everything, all within 2 weeks. And then maybe, you know, taking another couple of weeks to clean things up and mix and all that and just get it done. I know I get inspired by watching, you know, guys like Bonamassa, more blues based, where he's like starting the new record today, and then 3 days later he's like all done, you know. I was like, wow, like that's amazing, because the way that I take, you know, to do records is like it takes me, you know, months and months. It's like just a little more I work on it when I can, and it's more layered, and I'm doing everything in the computer and kind of making it. So I'd love to do that, an album like that. Oh, that's a good idea. Ian says, when you release the video, you should do a tone talk with Dave talking about making it. You're right. Maybe they'd have me as a guest and we could talk about, because I'd love to get Dave's take on, you know, how he feels about the sounds after he lives with it for a minute and stuff. I mean, he was, you know, he was around while I was doing it, but, you know, he sitting with the clips and really listening close and skipping around and stuff later. I'd like to get his thoughts on it. I've got a lot of thoughts on it, but I don't know if I want to spoil it here, because it's like that's what the video's for. So, yeah. Mark, wait, we're talking more about auditioning. Says I've had auditions like that. Yeah, bad auditions where you get the feel you don't want to do it. I usually get the gig and then I'm like, do I really want to deal with these people? Yeah, that's a good position to be in. I mean, that's kind of my dream position, is I want to go out for almost everything and get the gig and then decide if I want it. You know, because you never know. I mean, the money could be really low, and it's always the trifecta of the music, the money, and the hang. This is one of the most important things that I've ever learned, is it's like the music, the money, the hang. You have to have 2 of those things be great to enjoy the gig. If you've got all 3, the music's great, the money's great, and the hang is great, then you're going to love that gig. If you've only got one of those things, the songs are great, but the money sucks and the people are jerks, it's not enough. You're gonna be unhappy. If the money's awesome, but you hate playing the music and the people are no fun, then it's gonna suck. But you know, you can do a gig where the people are awesome, the music's great, but the money's low, and you're still like, but this is awesome because it's like life, and I'm enjoying the hell out of being around these people. The music's so fun to play, you know, so I'll get by on the dough somehow, or make ends meet. You know what I mean? So that's always my thing. Music, money, hang. Yeah. Let's see. What else we got here? You guys talking about the weather? Yeah, it's not that hot here. It's like 70s this week, I think. Maybe it's gonna warm up next week, I think, you know. Yeah, it's funny how guitar players in the 80s had limited choice with equipment and had better tone than goofballs with so much choice with equipment. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think more unique tone is because people had to kind of work with what they had. And there was a few things going on. Less option anxiety, less aversion to volume. It was more just people turning up and playing, you know. Like the fellow earlier asking the question, you know, about the 18 watt and do I need to attenuate it? I mean, you know, it's a valid question these days. I'm not poking fun at him. It's like, that's kind of, I know what he's talking about. I mean, I've been to gigs where you have right. I mean, I bet you guys have experienced this. You go in and it's a smallish venue, or even a medium venue, or, you know, like it could even be in theaters and stuff where, I'll put it this way. I mean, the PT-15, it's 15 watts, right? I mean, we played theaters last year in the UK, and there was nights where the sound guy came up and said, like, hey, can you just come down a little bit tonight? Because the way the stage is configured and the seats is right in the front, and, you know, it's an older crowd kind of for that group, and he just didn't want to, you know, be pushing the hell out of the PA. And it's funny, but you know, that can happen. You know, you know what I usually find is that lower watt combos, like an 18-watt combo or a you know, deluxe reverb, even it's 22 watts, right? Those are fine, kind of generally speaking, because they're less beamy. Like they kind of spread and they go all over the stage, and they seem to push less out the front just because of the nature of the open back cabinet. And I don't know, they're just a little less beamy. I mean, an AC30 sort of, you know, I'm contradicting myself because they're beamy as hell. They can be just that mid-range piercing, not beamy, but you know, they just, the tone penetrates, right? But you know what I mean? Like an 18-watt combo or a deluxe reverb, they can kind of spread around the room and it's cool. But the second that you get a closed back cabinet, so let's say you get a closed back 212 and a Marshall 18-watt or one of those little 20-watt heads, now people have an issue because it's the folks that are getting beamed by the closed back cabinet that are like, you know, it's still loud, I guess, you know. But anyways, there was less aversion of volume back in the day. And you know, people could turn up their amps a little bit. So that was cool because that lends to, it's got a lot to do with the guitar feedback with the amp relationship and how that makes neat tones, you know, that whole like just singing tones that you just can't get when you're using, you know, in-ear monitors and a modeler and no sound on stage. It's a different sound. It kind of synthesizes the guitar sound and sort of approximates an earlier sound. And I always say it's sort of akin to, you know, the difference between playing a Kurzweil, you know, keyboard or something with a nice piano sample or playing a Steinway on a, you know, it's just a different experience. You know, a sampled piano can sound great and a great model can sound great in a guitar processor, but there's just that je ne sais quoi that's missing with the that you get from volume and a great, you know, moderately loud to super loud tube amp. Greetings from Carlow, Ireland. Is it safe to use an 8-ohm captor with a 4-ohm bassman, says Patrick Kelly up there in the super duper chat. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. That one-way mismatch going up is just totally fine. And I've used my 4-ohm bassman with 8-ohm load I used for a long, long time. That was kind of my main pedal demo amp for a long time, was my old bassman. I don't really use it that much anymore. I still have it, but I kind of took it out of use, and I use my PTs mainly now for the Fendery cleans just because they work great and they're a little more versatile. And the bassman always, it sounds good, but I don't know. I didn't feel like it was better than the PT clean channel. So anyway, I don't have it in here. But long story short, 4-ohm, well, one thing also was the 4-ohm of the bassman into the 8-ohm. I thought I was getting the drive a little sooner. It seems to crunch up a little faster and be a little less clean headroom. What about this cameras? I can't seem to get it. Is that better? Let's see here. I can't seem to adjust it so that I feel like it's like at the right angle. What's that here? Is that better? Yeah, that's a little better. I feel like I want to sit in the middle of the screen. Okay, let's see here. How do I tell my lead singer he sucks and he needs to practice? You know, maybe recording rehearsals, like just record and then give him the rehearsal and go, well, what do you think? You know, maybe he's not aware, you know. That might be easier. I mean, if he hears with his own ears, because I know if I'm singing and I suck, oh God, like, and some people might be like, nah, you sound fine, and I'll be like, I'm my own worst critic when it comes to that, you know. It's like I gotta practice. I need to be more confident on that part. I really feel it, like when I hear it myself. So that might be a way to attack it. Just try. Hey, let's record a rehearsal and listen to ourselves, guys, and critique. What do you think? You know. Kelvin says, do I think that the -20 on the 2-notes torpedo would be too much for practice, live practice with an angled Powerball 100-watt? 20 dB is a really big reduction to me. That more is like a studio or bedroom, or I don't know about bedroom volume, but yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, a good loud tube amp that's, if you bring an amp from 105 dB down to 85 dB, it's not going to be audible in a band practice then, or in a live setting, really, on stage or whatever. You're going to have to, you need, for me, I don't know about you guys, but like -8 is a lot, or, enough for just about any situation with a live band on an attenuator. So, like a hot plate will have -4 or -8. I found many times, like the Rivera Rock Crusher was pretty good attenuator. I found the jump on the first click could be too much sometimes. So it said it was -3 or 4, and it sounded more like -6 or 8 to me on that particular unit. I think that, yeah, 20 is going to be too much for any sort of, like, definitely. It's going to take it down really far. I think that's meant to be a one-step kind of like use at home sort of setting. Yeah. Yeah. We got here 430 people online. Great to have all you guys. It's Steve Vai's birthday today. So it's his 61st birthday. And we should all wish him a happy birthday in whatever way we can on our social medias, etc. Just a little aside there. Awesome show, says Calvary. 70s Gibsons get hated on a lot, but I love them. Have you had much experience with them, and what are your thoughts? Love my PT15 IR. I've got a little experience with them. I've never owned one, but a number of my friends, I mean, occasionally friends have them, and there's some gems there for sure. I mean, like the the Adam from Tool is Silver Burst. Those 70s customs with like the maple neck and stuff. I had a friend with one of those with a maple fingerboard. So it was a black custom with a maple fingerboard and maple neck. Cool guitar. If you get a good one and they're solid, they can be great heavy rock guitars, I think. Like something about the maple neck. I think Zakk Wylde liked them too. It's a different sound, and they're a little more like, I don't know, like a little less, the Jimmy Page thing, and a little more like a, you put a Dirty Fingers in it, or I mean, I think that's probably the John Sykes guitar too. Not 100% sure about that, but I bet it's probably one of those maple neck ones, right? Maybe. Cool with the Dirty Fingers and just hot pickups and stuff, So it's a different thing. If you get a good one, the 76 Explorer, of course, that's a classic. There's cool ones to be had. There was a lot of dogs, and it was about finding a good one, I think. Same thing with 70s Strats and Tellys and stuff. You get a good one, they're pretty cool. So, it's a thing. Have you ever made a song sampling your washing machine or other household appliance? That's like the Phineas and Billie Eilish, let's sample The Crossing, it's beeping or whatever, and then we'll put it in the song. I love stuff like that. I've never really done that, but it's totally possible, and I love it when people do that, take a sound from nature or whatever, and then chop it up and put it in the computer and turn it into percussion or some kind of hook. It's cool. I'm all about that. Not, to me, I'm just as interested really in, maybe not just as interested, but I'm, like making electronic, music or ambient music or doing something just with the computer. It's all sound to me and fun. It's just painting with sound, and it's all cool and valid. Did you ever take vocal lessons? A little bit. I would say my first vocal lesson, or first vocal teacher, was Tim Bogert at MI, because he's the one that taught me. I did it a while ago here, but where I was in a vocal, like little informal kind of what became a vocal lesson at MI, and some people in the room, and he told me to say hi to my mom. Like, how do you sing? Say hi to your mom. She's across the parking lot. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, your mom is across a parking lot all the way. How do you, and I said, I don't know, Mom. And then he goes, that's not how you do it. You go like this. And he shouted, Mom, really loud, and like shocked everybody in the room, and he goes, that's how you sing, with that intention. And I was like, that was one of the most important vocal, that thing that I ever learned, that kind of power and stuff. And more so the mindset behind how to project and what to do. And then later on, there was this guy named Ron, I forget his last name, but he was a famous vocal instructor that, like, I think Axl Rose went to him, Cornell went to him, a whole bunch of people. and he was about $300 or $350 an hour. And I went and took 2 lessons, I think, with him. And that was cool. He had me singing the top of my range. And it was about visualizing the note instead of pushing it out. It was about coming out the top of your head, kind of the way that you visualize it, and relaxing through here, you know. And he had me like singing really high for a half an hour, like at the top of my range, and doing these exercises. And then he said, "Now, how do you feel at the end of it? And do you feel strained?" And I said, "No, actually, like not at all." And he's like, "See," he's like, "That's how you do it, you know." And it was about, it really was, you know, when you're playing guitar and you tense up and then you know, that kind of thing. And then like, instead you do breathing and lighten up, you know, with the pick and play lighter, like instead of tensing up when you think. It was the same kind of stuff, but just for vocals. And so that was really great instruction. But he was very expensive, so I only went a couple times to him, you know. Vincent, hey dude, what's up? In the super chat there. Happy Sunday, my friend. He says, can you discuss pros and cons differences between using PS50 for and Sir Reactive Load for recording amp to DAW? Well, I guess the Reactive Load has, if it's the IR version, has the IRs built in. So it's a little easier, I guess, that way. The load is really good in the Power Station. It's really good. The Reactive Load might be just ever so slightly more like a cabinet. So if that's a factor, you could listen and see. You've got the ability to, of course, tune the load with the switches on the Fryette. And the Sir just gives you the one load, but it is a very, very accurate Greenback 412 kind of impedance curve when you see it mapped out, plotted out and stuff. I'd have no reservations using either. You know, I'm a big Reactive Load fan. I'm a big Power Station fan. So I think you could do either, and you're right there. And any differences you hear, you might be able to get with EQ. But, you know, I think the Reactive Load is a little more geared towards recording, and the Power Station is a little bit more slightly on the live, you know, with the power amp built in and stuff, or, you know, playing through a cabinet. But yes, you can use it as just a straight load, take the line out, and do the same thing you would do with the original Reactive Load that has no IRs built in. They'll both do the job just fine, you know, and get you there. Yeah, great channel, says David. Thanks, man. David Dillmore. I see what you did there. It's weird. My brain just saw David. That's what I saw in my mind. What else we got here? Let's see. Just heading down to the bottom of the chat here. When you load down an amp, you still get the same tone from a speaker that's not moving big air. It's not exactly the same sound because speakers do compress and distort to some degree if you push them hard enough. But I don't think speaker distortion is some sort of be-all, end-all. I mean, it's cool if it's, you know, it can be downright ugly, I think, if you push them too hard, and it's probably, you know, it's not great for speakers, but it's not exactly the same sound. I guess you can experiment with it, say, in an aux with there's kind of the control that lets you drive how hard the speaker is distorting. Because I guess they kind of measured that stuff, and it kind of just gets, I don't know how to describe that. For those out there with an aux, how would you describe it as you turn it up? It's cool to run a little higher, you know, but maybe not for every sound. It's the part of reamping and load boxes and all that stuff that I worry about the least, the pushing the speakers part. You know, I think all the other stuff is more important. As long as the speaker is moving, you know, it's cool to get them moving for sure, to get them doing their thing, but they don't have to be getting obliterated with power, you know, to sound really good. So I think that, you know, you get the speaker moving a bit, let's say in a reamp scenario with something like a Power Station, bring it up to a comfortable volume with something like a loud Plexi or AC30, you know, where it's now not dominating the band and where you got people like holding the rears and stuff, but it's just mixed in with an acoustic drum set at the volume. That's my goal, you know. And as long as, I've always found if the speakers, I would say a band should settle in around the drums, because the drums is the instrument you can't change. It's acoustic, you know, it is what it is, and the drummer sort of plays the way they play. And you shouldn't ask somebody that's developed a technique and is a member of a band and has a sound to, hey, can you turn down, which means play with different sticks or play lighter? Like, no, you wouldn't ask somebody on the guitar to change their technique at a gig, right, at a sound check. Can you just like pick like half as hard as you are for the whole show? You know, like that's insane. So we can't ask drummers to do that. So therefore, the band should just settle in around the sound and the volume of the drums on stage, to me. And then like the PA and the monitors just fills in and should make things better beyond that, you know? That's my philosophy. You know, that's all I ever ask for. Can I just play? If you're standing in the front of the stage and you got the guitars and the drums and the bass amp, does it sound balanced? If you're standing right at the front kind of, and you're in the middle or maybe a row or two back, and you're listening to the sound of the band playing with the guitars, two guitars, bass, drums, whatever, does it sound balanced around the drums from 12 feet away or 15 feet away? Does everybody sound like, you know, the sound of it? Is the snare drum at the same volume as the guitar amp? And if you can get your rigs to that level, that's all you can hope for, I think. And, you know, beyond that, we get into like putting plexiglass around the drums and moving the stuff off stage and stuff. And I don't think I like that, you know. I will say like plexi around the guitar amps is kind of cool. I never thought I would like it. And then I heard Steve Stevens do it, and Joe Bonamassa obviously really likes it and stuff. And when I heard it in action, I thought that actually works pretty well, like, and still sounds good, like from an on-stage playing perspective. And also listening. Leroy says, I keep giving you money randomly. You deserve it. Oh, man. Don't have to do that, but thank you. I do appreciate it. I wanted to thank you for recommending Ross Nyberg for mastering. He did great. Oh, great. That's the fellow that mastered both my records. Nice guy, right? Super nice guy up in Seattle. And he's a guitar player. He gets guitar music. And he does a really, really nice job. So Nyberg Mastering, I believe. Ross Nyberg Mastering. Up. You can do a search for him. Anybody needs some mastering done. He always does great deals. And he never slams it too hard and like over compresses or limits, and he just does a really, really good job on the mastering. Makes it sound better than I can. You know, that was always my test. Like, can I do my fake kind of mastering with the plugins that I've got? And you know, because usually I'm doing my own for like YouTube videos or whatever. That's just stuff I'm doing myself. But when I do a record, I'll send it to Ross. So I've got another friend of mine that's actually doing mastering now, and he did a track for me, and he's wonderful at it. He's a bass player. He plays with Richard Marx and now with the Wallflowers. And his name's Why Not Jansveld. He's a Dutchman that is a amazing musician. He's a fantastic bass player. Anyway, he's been doing some mastering. I believe he mastered the new Wallflowers, and might have done some stuff for Richard before and stuff. But he does such a good job, and so he did a track for me recently. He's great. How did the pickup shootout go yesterday? Can you explain in some detail your mic and speaker setup for it? It went great. And I was talking about it a little bit at the beginning, but most of you folks weren't here. So it went really good. It's so many pickups. I mean, it's over 20 pickups, I think, or around 20. And I did, with the Destroyer as well, I did 3 different pickups. And then with the black and white guitar, it was, you know, the whole run of like 20. So there's going to be like 23 different, you know, something like that, 23, 24 different comparisons, as well as just comparing those 2 guitars. It went really great. Mic setup. First of all, I used the SL68 because it's just the no-brainer, easy way to go. Sounds great. The cabinet was my old Marshall, flipped upside down, and I just mic'd the bottom 2 speakers. So bottom speakers became the top because I flipped the cabinet, and you know, it's the deeper part of the cabinet because it's an A style cab. I put a 57 right in the middle on one speaker, and then on the other speaker I angled it out kind of, you know, so instead of pointing right at the speaker, it was like this, pointing out at the sort of paper, and blended those mics, mainly the bright mic, and then blending in the darker mic a little bit. And then I did a little bit of EQ to them to kind of simulate them more. Because I'm sure at this point that there was some desk EQ going on, and maybe on the recording side. I think probably just, you know, whatever they were using, that Crazy Sunset sound console, that kind of custom console, and probably Don Landay got in there and just went like, on the 2 channels. And there's a little bit of a, I always find the same thing is that when I mic a cabinet like that and it's those speakers, I need to do a little bit of, it's a dip in the mids, upper mids really, from kind of like the 1K, 2K kind of is with that aggressive Marshall. I think they bring it out a little bit. They scoop it out just a little bit. Otherwise it just sounds too like crazy. But when you do that, it has a much more like the correct character to me. And that just consistently, I always hear that. So it just seems to me like, yeah, he was using kind of a broad EQ on, you know, one of those, maybe an API 550A or something like that, and set to, you know, whatever the 1K, 2K, 900 hertz, some kind of center frequency, and then probably just dumped it 2 dB on each of the mics, something like that, to take out that, you know, I'm guessing, but I think that's what happened just from my geekiness. Anyways, a lot of pickups, and you know, it's kind of interesting because the pickups kind of go into the different categories of, let's see, we got a couple top chats here. I'll just address these and then I'll go back to that. Chip, thank you. Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And what kind of camera did you get? The image is very clear. So somebody, whoever you were, if you're watching, it's a Logitech 9 something or other, a webcam. They're around $89 on Amazon, and that's what I got. Just because, and I like it. It's working out good. And I'm using the microphone in it right now too. It's much easier than using what I was using, which was my Sony a6000 kind of DSLR style camera, and then hooking it up via an adapter into the USB, and it was always out of focus and looked good when it was right, but when it wasn't, you know, this is just automatic and seems pretty cool. So anyway, Logitech webcam. If you look for Logitech 1080p webcam, it'll be the one that pops up. It's kind of silver and microphones on the outside. Okay, let's address this, and then I'll come back to the pickups. Talk about the pickups a little bit more. It is Ben in the super chat. Thank you for doing that. Thanks all you guys for doing the super chat. Hey Pete, my ears trick me into thinking different equals better, like when I change pickups or pedals. Basically, yeah, I get burned on the honeymoon phase of gear. You know, isn't it weird though? Like when you change like a pickup or a pedal, and then you like, it can sound, oh, that's different, and then like your ear becomes accustomed to it, and then you go, oh no, it's okay. Like speakers are really weird that way. When you flip IRs, modelers make this easy, right? To flip these sounds and go, oh, that's weird, and then, oh, but then your ear just grows into it after like 5 seconds. You're like, oh, okay, that's cool now. It's strange. It's funny. I actually met Warren DeMartini the other day, who was just a pleasure. He's like such a nice guy, and we had a great chat. But he was talking about how like, you know, you hear a sound of an old amp that you had, or you haven't plugged into it for a while, and then you plug it in and you go like, that sounds amazing. Why did I stop using this thing? And I was like, I totally understand that. Like listening to recorded guitar tones from shows or things that I did like 20 years ago and going, that sounds great. Why did I ever get rid of that rig? Like, what was I thinking moving to other stuff? So I think that's a common phenomenon, you know, and, you know, there are those guitar players that really didn't, you know, do that much. When I think about like guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Eric Johnson, or they kind of stick with a similar, at least, formula for their rigs, you know, and they didn't really move away from stuff that much. I mean, Eddie Van Halen really stuck with a pretty similar thing for those whole first, you know, 6 records or whatever. So, you know, the folks that tend to, but it's funny, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day as well, as a tech that works for Foo Fighters, and Dave Grohl's guitar rig is 2 Tone Masters and 2 PT100s, actually. The original custom audio version that we brought out 10, 11 years ago. And Bob Bradshaw did his rig back in the day, and that's how he ended up with two PTs. Is, you know, Bob recommended them. He just, what amps should I get? And Bob said these, and then he got them, and he's like, so the way he uses them, I guess, because I've always wondered this, is he uses the PTs for, so he's probably got 1 main, 1 for backup, and then 1 Tone Master main, 1 for backup. And the way he uses them is he said to this guy, he said, I love the super clean on this amp and the really dirty on this amp, meaning the PT. And then he's like, what I need now is 2 in-between sounds. So if that's what he uses the Tone Master for, you know, kind of a little bit more edgy sound and then a crunch sound, I guess. and he switches all 4 of those sounds. And he's used that rig. I mean, I think it's good. It's probably going on at least 10 years or something like that he's been using that rig. And the guy said to me, he said he's happy with it and probably won't ever change, you know. And I was so happy to hear that he was still using the amp. But one thing about him is he's not a gear guy, I guess. And I've heard that before from other people. Like, he does not want to talk about guitar gear and pedals and guitars. And he just writes songs. He makes music, and he's most interested in music. And I really admire that in a way. You know, he got a sound that works live. He's got a rig. Just maximize that and don't screw around now. Brian May, I mean, really, it's the same thing. You know, it's just like, find your sound. There's your voice. Mess around occasionally with, or you know, I've mentioned it before, like Morello. You know, these guys that find their tone, 4 or 5 pedals, you know, many times it's Boss pedals or, you know, something readily available, and they don't mess around much. I mean, I guess that's the opposite end of that, because I'm always making these videos, and that's kind of become a big part of my job and how I earn a living and what I do. And so I have to, and it's really fun, but I also, you know, the grass is always greener, and you're like, God, what if I could just, you know, play in a band and have my tone and not, right? You know, there's always, you know, there's pluses and minuses to both, I guess. I do enjoy getting to mess around with stuff all the time. A couple more super chats, then I'll come back to oh, that's a good question here. I'll come back to the bit about the pickups. Neil is asking in the super chat about strings, pure nickel versus, you know, nickel plated steel or coated. During the I'll tie this into the pickup shootout. During the pickup shootout, Ernie Ball was kind enough to get me pure nickel, all the right gauges. So I got a bunch of singles, 9, 11, 15, 24, 32, 40, the correct Eddie Van Halen gauges. So that's what I was using on both guitars yesterday. Tuned down to E flat and get pretty slinky. Tuned down to drop C sharp when you're playing Unchained or something, right on the low, you know, and it's a 40 tuned way down. But hey, that's what he did. The nickel goes dead pretty fast, but they do sound great with distortion. And one of the things I'll talk about in the video is he didn't like too much searing top end, I don't think, you know, after Van Halen 1, because that record has a real crunchy sound. And as Dave said from his mouth, he told Dave Friedman, he goes, that record's too bright. I don't like that, you know. So I do think he liked old strings. I think he liked dark strings, and that had a lot to do with just countering that searing loud everything on 10 had to be to get to the distortion that he wanted amp. So, you know, countering all of that, it's all a balance. It's all a recipe, right? For me, I use the Primo Slinky nickel plated steel Ernie Ball. That's, you know, 9.5 to 44. That's the gauge that I've been using for a while. I might just go to 9s. I don't know. I mean, I can play these 9, 11, 15, 40, you know, on the Eddie Van Halen, you know, guitars, tune it down to E flat. And it's like, this sure is comfortable and fun, like not having, you know, but 9.5 to 44 has been my thing for a while. And they're just the nickel plated steel standard. I don't really do the coated strings. I don't know. I always feel like there's something like they sound good, but like no matter what, you get flat spots on the strings, right, from the frets. And I find that especially like on the D, you notice that, like where you know, you play it for a couple of weeks, and then you feel it underneath, and it's got all the way down the string. And I don't like that, because that's got to affect the way the string vibrates and intonation and things. So I think no matter what, you got to change them. So I don't really do the coated, you know, the coated thing. Will an EQ pedal, Chip says, make enough of a difference in my pedal setup if I'm already running through an amp head with EQ? Yeah, I mean, an EQ pedal is really, well, you could watch my videos on EQ pedals. I did a couple for Source Audio and one for Boss, and I show how you can use the EQ pedal to do different things. Watch those videos and they might give you an idea. You can take an amp that is quite, well, I mean, you can scoop mids on an amp in like a, you know, like a JCM 800 or something, and make it much more metal. Like if you put it in the loop of one of those new sort of Marshalls, you know, you can kind of alter the tone of an amp in a way that you just can't, you know, with the amp EQ by carving it out. You know, like a Mesa, like how they've got that graphic. That's what that was all about. Or in the front of the amp, you can do things like boost mids and get a more cutting almost like stuck wah sound. You can cut lows to tighten up your sound going into the amp and boost. I mean, kind of, you know, do that, like cut the lows a little bit and then boost up on the top end, do one of those things and cut right around, you know, 1, 2K. I mean, sometimes that was the Eddie Van Halen thing, I think, with if he was using those MXR EQs or the, you know, the 6-band where you'd see the mids boosted, you know, because it'd nail the front end of the amp and give you some more distortion and give you a little bit more juice, especially if you had long cable runs and stuff. Like, I don't, you know, debatable whether or not he ever did that stuff in the studio, but a little bit in the EVH deep dive video, I showed doing that with the Boss EQ as well, the 10-band GE10. And you can hear how you can radically alter the sound going to the front of the amp, or even just subtly alter, but it makes a big difference. Like, you can just maximize the tone going into the front of the amp. So you can really hear it in the, actually check out the EVH deep dive video and it'll show you, like, even just subtle low mid cuts and then a bit of a mid bump. It's like that, it sounds good. And then I switch the EQ in and it's like, now it sounds great. You just dial in kind of what you want out of your pickups and stuff. You can just use an EQ to really fine tune the sound and get it right where you want it. It's like, it's almost there, but I wish it just had a little less, a little more of this or whatever, you know, and it affects the way the guitar hits the amp. And so I like an EQ. That said, do I have one? Not really. I have sometimes the Unit 67 in front of the amp. This is a great pedal that I use. It kind of rotates in and off my pedal board, but it's basically a boost with compression. And then you've also got a little mid bump right here, and then a low and a high control. So it's simple, very like bass, treble, and then this is a Rangemaster style, more dirty kind of mid thing that you can boost with. So I guess it's a, you know, it's a simple EQ is what it is that I can do some cool stuff with if I want to get it, you know, my tone dialed in just a little bit. That's what I love this pedal for, because it's this sort of, the way I use the compressor is quite subtle, boost, dial the sound just a little bit with, it's like an all-in-one kind of like tone maximizer. I find this pedal is really nice, great sounding pedal. Did a video on this as well if you ever want to see what it kind of does. Okay, so the pickup, the pickup video. Well, Teammates is saying just about the yeah, Dave. Yeah, have I ever met him? Yes, I've met him numerous times. When I was with Cornell, we did shows with Foos, and he was always very nice. I ended up going. I know Rami. I know some of the guys. I've known Pat for years, and recently kind of met Chris and talked with him on the phone, and you know, I've met all those guys, and Dave is always very nice. You know, I remember I went to one of Rami's. He had a barbecue. It was a huge kind of party, and Dave was there barbecuing. And I think I've talked about this before, that Dave was at the barbecue the whole night cooking. He never, you know, he's got his hat on backwards and he's just like grilling, and he was like going back and forth to the kitchen because there was like 300 people there or something, and he was literally making the food for everybody. You know, he's a rad dude. He's really cool. Very, you know, and anytime I've met him, he's like, "Hey, how you doing? Great, dude." You know, I don't know if he ever remembers me or not, but one time I remember rehearsing in the Valley and with Chris, and we ended up going out for food for lunch, and it was me and Sutter and Chris and one other guy from our organization, and we went to this Mexican restaurant. It's like in the corner of Magnolia and Coldwater, and it's like a great like family style, you know, Mexican restaurant. And we were sitting in there, and Grohl comes walking in, you know, and so it's Chris Cornell and Dave Grohl in this, you know, Mexican place in North Hollywood, you know, and it was just like, so who would have thought that these two guys, you know, these Seattle music icons would meet up at this little strip mall, you know. It's a great place if you ever, it's right on the corner of Magnolia and Coldwater if you ever want some good tacos and stuff. It's really, really cool. But anyways, and so they rapped for a bit and stuff. And, you know, he's always he's a regular dude. He's a nice guy, you know, that's just been very successful and is great at what he does. Okay, so about the pickups, I just want to come back to that for a second. Yesterday, what I discovered was, like, I learned a lot, and I don't want to detail everything, but I learned that the different pickups for the different eras and the different guitars are really important. And part of coming back around to the strings thing, the nickel strings with Eddie Van Halen kind of countering the top end, I do think like that Alnico 2, Duncan 78, you know, Pariah, Pasadena White, what are some of the other pickups? I've got a rewind here with an Alnico 2 and 9K. There's something to that, like for broadly the Van Halen tone. Maybe not Van Halen 1 on the more distorted, you really got me sounds, but certainly like Van Halen 2, somebody get me a doctor, you know, into, you know, like that sound is, which is a great sound, you know, that if I only had one pickup and I was doing Van Halen, I think that's the one. The A2 9K, 9 point something K, is so great. You know, in trying them all yesterday, I mean, the bare knuckle was really great too. The Van Halen 2, it's in A5, but however he does the whine and stuff, it just sounded great. You know, there's a bunch that you're going to hear that are really terrific. We tried a Thornbucker and experimented with an A2 in it. So it's a Thornbucker, you know, which is a slightly offset whine around 8.7K, something like that, with an A2. So it's basically really similar to that. And it sounded great, really good. You're going to hear a bunch of these pickups, you know, the different thing. And that to me broadly is the one pickup that spec of pickup from whoever you get it from is the one that I would probably go with. But the 14K custom kind of vibe is great for the fair warning stuff, or, you know, that era, maybe from then on, you know, sort of sound, that 14K. And that's not far off from the EVH spec, I don't think, the pickup. You know, it's interesting. The Duncans that I tried the Frankenstein pickup, tried the custom, you know, and I think I actually like the custom the most, which is, you know, kind of a regular line pickup for them. The Pasadena Black from Pariah was that spec too. And it does that thing too. It's hot, but not too hot, and it's pushing the amp, and it's kind of warm. You know, there's a warmth to it. There's a muted top end that is nice to listen to, I guess. You know, no, it's not. It's fun to play. It's not my favorite sound. I think my favorite sound is the slightly lower power, the 9K, 9.2K, something like that. You know, Alnico 2 for that sound. Yeah, I learned a lot. Like now I'm really interested in Alnico 2 magnets a little bit more and what's going on there, and you know, so it's interesting. But if you want Van Halen 1 and you want You Really Got Me, I'll take it to my grave. Super distortion. I think that's what's going on. Yeah. Any lollers in the experiment by chance? I haven't. No, there was no lollers. It was DiMarzio, Seymour Duncan, Pariah, Bare Knuckle, Sir, a Friedman pickup, Mighty Might, both new and old, Rewind Electric. I know I'm missing somebody, and I feel bad if I miss anybody. But and then, you know, sometimes it was 4 different Duncans, you know. And at the end of the day, there ain't nothing wrong with a Duncan 59. It's fine, good sounding pickup, you know. I really wanted to make sure we did that pickup, and it actually sounds great. So, you know, it's like all this stuff is. I did it last, and I played the clips on the guitar, and I walked out in the other room where everyone else was, and I said, well, after all this, the Duncan 59 is just fine. It's all splitting hairs. It's actually not splitting hairs. They're all pretty different. Like, I mean, there's the classes, right? It's interesting. You got your distortion pickups, and then you got your like ceramic magnet, 13, 14K, and then you got your Alnico 5s, PAF, Alnico 2, hot PAF, 14K, Alnico 2, hot rod, mid-80s situations. What experiment was this, says Andre? We filmed a huge Eddie Van Halen themed pickup video yesterday with 20 plus pickups and in 2 different guitars. And you're hearing a bunch of the same riffs loosely, you know, with the different pickups. And the video will probably be an hour long, and I'm going to have to do chapters and make sure so you guys can skip around and hear the different stuff directly. And I'll make sure to do that. And it's just going to be like making no money this week trying to like do this damn video. Like, what am I doing? I'm a grown up, or maybe I'm not. Jim says, I hate Duncan. Why? They're great. Why would you hate Duncan? I mean, you know, I do have a newfound respect for DiMarzio for sure, which I never really, I just didn't use DiMarzio that much, you know, but which pickup is staying in the black and white? That I don't know. That I need to go back and listen, because you know how it is when you're doing it and you're like, oh, I like this, I like that. And then now I'll go back and hear all the clips. And once I make the video, just like you guys, I'll make it. And then I'll really, after a few days of reflection and kind of listening closely, oh, you know, because you lose track after a while, you know. It's like sometimes I'd be, you know, I was 6 or 7 hours into it and I'd be playing, okay, doing it. And then you go like, this does sound really good right now, but you're kind of tuned out a little bit because you're just trying to get the work done, you know, at that point. And then I'd be like, this one's good. Like, you know, I'm just getting burned out and a little hungry and stuff. But so I need to go back and listen, you know, later. Yeah. Did you tell that Mexican restaurant story? Whoops, I missed. Did you tell that Mexican restaurant story recently? I probably did. Yeah. Probably when somebody asked me if I've ever met Dave Grohl, because that was the one time that was really funny, where you're with Chris in a you know, not fast food place, but kind of, it's like a nice fat, you know, it's like a healthy kind of Mexican restaurant in a strip mall, you know, in North Hollywood, and you're hanging there, and here's these two rock icons just chilling. It's a cool moment. Just showing support, says Arthur. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Also was letting you know that I sent an email to make certain I had the right email before I sent my contact info for Seymour. Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Okay, so we've got to talk, man. So send me, because I really want, if I can get a little bit from Seymour in this, you know, just I don't know if I did get your, I'm going to look right now, Arthur, and see if I got your email. And I assume, I search your name in my, oh yeah, there you are, I think. Excellent. Okay, man, I'm keeping your email open here. I'm gonna hit you back after the show, because I really want to talk to talk to Seymour if I can, knowing what I know now and stuff. Get a little, it'd be such a great addition to this video, and especially since they have like 4 pickups in the video. There's a Duncan Custom, there's a 59, there's an EVH, or sorry, 78, right? Blasphemy. A 78 and a Frankenstein in the video, so it'd be great. I mean, I think there's more Duncans in the video than anything, than any other brand. So yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. What do I think is the best stock guitar for EVH tones under around $1,000? Which EVH tones? Because now I'm like really confused about. I'm not confused. I'm clear, but I'm actually clear. But the thing is, there's the different eras, and you really have to decide which thing you're going for, because it's not one. First of all, it's not one guitar. It's really 2, and then kind of 3 once you get past the first 5 albums, and then we get into the later, you know, with Music Man and stuff, and there's those instruments, and which is a different thing, you know, it's a different sound. By the way, I also play the Wolfgang and the EVH Frankenstein in the video, so there's 2 clips too with those 2 guitars. This is going to be insane, this video. I hope it's going to be like a movie. I need to buy, I was thinking I actually need to buy a new hard drive to just make this video, because I need enough hard drive space to, it's going to be a lot of clips. So anyways, I met Seymour at 2019 NAMM, and he was so cool. You know, I met him in the 80s at Mother's Music in Edmonton. He came and did a clinic. This is before people did clinics, really, and he came and did a kind of a pickup tone clinic. It was great. I was so stoked. I was like starstruck. Seymour Duncan, I buy your pickups and love them, you know. And he was really, really nice. I remember standing at the counter in the front of, anybody from Edmonton, their old school, the front counter at Mother's Music on White Avenue, standing there talking to Seymour, like for just like picking his brain and being a geek, you know, when I was like 16. He was really cool. So it'd be nice to connect with him again and talk with him all these years later. Did that Red and White Steinberg ever make an album? That is a very important guitar on the 5150 album. Summer Nights and one other song that I'm not remembering right now. But when you hear that, right? It's all like summer. It was Summer Nights, right? Where he used the bar and then locked it in the other position. it's impossible to play on any other guitar because of the, you know, the trans trim where it locks and it's like a capo. Yeah. So cool. And I hear he also had that guitar restored recently because it was in a state of disrepair, and then they kind of went through it, and you know, and it's unfortunate he never had a chance to really, you know, to use it on stuff. But the guitar was cleaned up and fixed up and stuff like that. Melanie says, my friend still works at Mother's Music. Is that the one on, there's one on, okay, is there a Mother's Music anymore, though? I don't remember, because there's not the one that I used to go to was on White on the south side of the street. That's gone. It's a bank or something now. And on the other side of the street, there was the store that had all the band and wind instruments and stuff, as well as sheet music. And that sort of turned into, I just don't remember. And the Mothers then moved downtown, and I believe it closed. It's now like a karate equipment store or something. Because I drove by once, it's like, oh, it's not there anymore. So I don't know what, maybe actually, if you can comment, Melanie, like where it is or whatever, because I'd love to know if they moved again or something. It was a great story. That's where I bought my Jackson, you know, that I still have with the city painted on it, you know, my old Jackson. I used to hang out there all the time and drive all those people crazy. Codswinger says, do you put your H9s in your loop or in front? I use mine in the loop of my amp. Yeah, it's kind of my loop reverb, sometimes delay, pitch thing. You know, that's what I use it for. Could you do a video on the mean mother-loving man, Chris Holmes tone? I don't really know anything about Chris Holmes and his sounds. I don't. He's an interesting character. Have you ever plugged your guitar into the bass player's amp? No, but in all seriousness, I sometimes plug my guitar in, and I've left a bass rig up in virtual UA console, and I'm like, why does that sound so weird? Oh, the SVT's on UA console. So I have done that, but I never I don't punch my interface or anything when I do that, to answer your question. I just chastise myself for forgetting things. He also played the Steinberger on Me Wise Magic. Did he? Is that right? I didn't know that. Are you sure? Me Wise Magic. Where does it bend? Okay, I gotta go listen to that after. Check it out. And hear what you're talking about. Glad you made it through yesterday. Hope the mental scarring doesn't last too long. It was actually really fun. It was easy. Went really, our plan went so well with the 2 pick guards and the output jack on the pick guard and just rotating it. I was able to do about 3 pickups an hour. So it went really fast. Any advice for a great acoustic rock sound? That's interesting. Probably just having a good preamp, like with a little EQ and maybe a little compression and all that. Like I've done videos occasionally for like the acoustic gig or acoustic rig or something from Carl Martin. You know, it's like a nice, that lets you tailor in the tone. Speaking of Taylor and acoustics, did anybody see my video this week? It's funny, I spent a long time making this video on acoustics this week with 5 different Taylor guitars, and that video is just kind of languishing out there. I mean, it's got like 6,000 views, but like, you know, people don't come to my channel for acoustic guitars. I don't think that's the thing. It's just like, folks, oh, acoustic, not interested. I want to hear the distortion. I want to hear Marshalls. Antea says, parles-tu français? Un petit peu. Verre de vin blanc, s'il vous plaît. I can say that. That's it. Let's see. No, I've got a little bit more than that. Où sont les toilettes? I used to know more French. When I was working in France and gigging, I became a little bit better, you know. And I was actually, you know, I'd get Babel and, you know, Rosetta Stone and work on my French. And I've never really cracked another language, like Japanese, French. Those are the 2 main that I've worked on. And I've never gotten to that point where I feel like I'm getting it. I can do this. Like I'm shitty, but I can converse. And I've never quite gotten to that point with either language. I would love to just bridge that gap and make that where I'm speaking another language. It's really fun. That's as fun for me as working on music, you know. Byron says the Taylor vid was great. Thanks, man. Please share it. Help. You know, I just wish more people would check it out because it was really fun. And Sammy Bowler played some really cool stuff in it and had a guest in there. It was really fun. Volume and tone pots and caps, 500K. I don't know any. Tone caps is a funny one. Like, I don't use the tone control, so I don't worry about it because I just like it to be up all the way, generally speaking. And I believe that there is a lot of BS about tone caps, like where I just don't know if they make that much of a difference, like the different ones and stuff, as long as they're the right value. But I kind of don't care because I don't turn them down. So I can't tell you about tone caps, but I will say I can tell you a lot more about volume controls. I mean, yeah, 500K, 520, like good tested volume pots that are 500K for humbuckers are imperative to me. I don't want a pot that darkens a pickup. I'd rather have a different pickup. So the problem is these days that pots kind of suck. I do like the those low friction EVH pots seem quite good. Dunlop Super Pot I've got in that black and white guitar, and that's holding up well. Seems to work good. Who knows who makes them though? Maybe it's just CTS, or the CTS pots for the most part just suck these days. They all get dirty so quickly. Forever opening up your guitar and spraying them out, and then 3 months later they just are dirty again. Alpha pots, okay, you know, but that's it. There's only like CTS and Alpha, and then like there's just not that many other ones out there. So it's more like, yeah, 500K, but I'm more worried about I just don't, you know, I use the pot a lot to just turn down from, you know, 10 to 5 or whatever. And when you do that while you're trying to record, it's like, give me a break, man. This sucks. Like, I can't have that. I'll literally go grab a volume pedal and just do it with a volume pedal because, you know, they all, like, that didn't used to happen. They just didn't used to do that. They didn't used to. So I don't know what, you know, what's going on, but like they need to tighten up their whatever, you know, because they suck. I wish there was a great US made pot that was a reasonable price that would be like, if you had to up the price of the guitar $20 or whatever, because the pots are now, you know, a few bucks more each or something, I'm fine with that because it's like, it's worth it to me to not have to have that kind of, you know, somebody should start a, you know, make good volume pots for guitars. That, like I say, that Dunlop Super Pot is actually working out pretty good, but I don't know the origin where they're made. They're probably made in China too. I'm not anti-made in China at all. I'm just anti-crap made in China, like CTS, you know. They suck. They flat out suck. Their pots suck. They suck. All of them get shitty after 2 months. That's not okay to me. So, Spectral Pots. What are those? I never heard of those. Stealth Parrot. I don't know if they make them for guitars. I don't know. I haven't heard of those. I mean, as far as I know, when I talk to, you know, folks like Dave and stuff, he's like, there's Alpha and there's CTS. What else have you got? You know, there's this other pot that's made in the US, but they're so expensive. Like, they're super expensive. It's the one that Sir uses for the post-phase inverter volume on an SL68 or SL67. You know, very expensive, but they work. They're just really good, you know. The carbon strip on the wipers deteriorates. Well, whatever it is. I mean, why is it that my vintage guitars can sometimes, you know, sound better than, I mean, my 335 doesn't do that. The pots are from 1963. You know, it's like they're clean as can be. As a matter of fact, one time I had a tech that was doing something changing. He pulled the thing right out of the pot, like whatever the part, the shaft or whatever the pot, he yanked it out trying to take the knob right off. And I was like, oh, because it was an original pot, but he managed to fix it. He got it back in and it still works, and it sounds great. Burns says, yeah, Burns are okay. So Burns are who makes the EVH, and those are pretty cool. Although it even got a little dirty, but not too bad in my EVH Wolfgang, because I remember, because I was doing the EVH chorus video and I was playing Cathedral, so over and over and over again, and it was a little scratchy, but I did manage to get it clean enough to get the video done. DiMarzio and Duncan have pots. I wonder the origin though, who makes them, you know. I'm not sure if they're just rebranded and they just come from CTS anyway. because it's possible. Pariah pickups. Thanks, man. Hey, your pickups sound great. They really do. All of them were really terrific. So kudos to you. Really nice work. I think my favorite's the white, Pasadena white pickup. That was terrific in the shootout. But they're all really nice versions of, you know, like everything across the board. So this gentleman makes nice pickups, Pariah pickups, for sure. So as soon as I get the video done, you all will hear. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, man, you bet. I mean, really, really great work. And you know, the other thing, you've got a very classy presentation. I love the box with the what do you call it? The, you know, metal piece that if you guys bought a Pariah pickup, you know, but he's got a nice. It's just a, you know, feels like it's a nice experience beyond just getting a pickup. You know, like you open the box, it's got this little. What's it called? Like a metal plate, like, you know, with all the specs of the pickup on it and stuff. Comes with it. It's nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brad says he bought a lubricated contact cleaner. It works good. Yeah, you can clean them. I mean, generally speaking, you got to spray them out and then they get clean, but they get dirty again fast. You know, it's the only problem. That's what I found. But what are you going to do, you know? Why don't they seal pots, says Brad? Well, some of them are, I think. They always make it so you can spray stuff in there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. But Dunlop DSP pot. Yeah, the Dunlop Super Pot seems pretty good so far, you know. So that's one. I just don't know I don't really know who makes it. But, you know, like I say, it's in that white guitar I've got, and I haven't noticed any scratch or anything like that. It sounds good. The main problem I have is not the taper, and it's not the roll down. It's just that damn sound they make when they get dirty, you know, because I'm a volume pot guy. So I would love to see your old Jackson. Perhaps you could do a side-by-side comparison with your Sir interpretation of it. You know, the guitar, my Sir is not really, like, it's just the neck that is pretty close to the Jackson that they took the measurements off of and stuff. It's ever so slightly different, but it's really quite close. The Jackson has a flat 16-inch radius, I think. And the Sir, we went with the compound just because it was like, well, it's a little more. We can mess with that. And then that coupled with the other couple things, it ended up just feeling a little bit different than the Jackson. But other than that, my Jackson is a great guitar. And even the fellow at Sir that put it back together after, because they took it apart to measure the neck and everything, and then he was assembling it, and I was talking with him, and he was like, this guitar is really well made. And I was like, I know. It's like that era. Whoever was making guitars in that San Dimas factory in the mid 80s, right around 84, 85, 86, man, like all the pre-pro, yeah, I know. But that period of Charvel Jackson, you know, when they went to the Jackson name, but it was on the bolt, because it used to be Charvels were the bolt-ons in the early 80s. And Jacksons were for, you know, the Randy Rhodes, the neck through or the set neck or that type of thing. But then they started saying, they moved the Charvel name to be the cheaper kind of import guitars, which were still good, the ones that came from Japan. And they started putting Jackson on everything made in the US factory. Well, that's the era of guitar I got from around 85 or 86. And that guitar, I mean, the finish, the neck on that guitar, when you put it in the neck pocket, you have to just push it in. And then the way that the neck, I mean, there's almost no, like, you know, the pocket and the way the pocket will overhang on some guitars from where the neck is. I mean, it is smooth as, it's like they made that neck for that guitar. It's crazy. The tolerance, I guess, is what I'm getting at, is really tight. It was a great guitar. Pete, no more Mother's Music. It's Long and McQuaid now. Thank you for clarifying that. That's what I thought. Thank you. Thanks for doing the super chat. Even Axe Music is gone. Is it? It's a Long and McQuaid now. Holy shit. Like, how many Long and McQuaids are in Edmonton? There's one on the, because there was another Long and McQuaid. So that's crazy. Is there 3 Long and McQuaid musics in Edmonton? There's one over on the north side. Sorry, this is some Edmonton homie stuff right here. Axe was by the Northlands Coliseum. So is that along McQuaid now? And then the one on the south side on Way Avenue. You don't have to do the super chat to tell me. But thank you. Yeah.
Good to know, though. Jeff says, love the channel. Have you ever done a pot change on a 335? I haven't, and that's why, oh man, 335s and wiring them and stuff is insane. I don't even know how they do that and how they get the electronics through the F-hole and stuff and then put them all. But yeah, you basically have to take out all the electronics and pull them out, I guess, and do whatever you're doing and then bring the harness back in. Yeah, it's not a job I would ever want to do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think I missed a super chat. Sorry about that. Let me see here. Where was that? There we go. John says, which one to try first? Custom or SSH Plus in my Ash Super Strat? That's a good question. The custom is with the, I just found, like, overall, whether it was a 9K or 8 point something K or 14K Alnico 2, they all have that distinct Alnico 2 sound, which I quite like with a cranked up Marshall. It's a rounded off top end. There's just a slightly muted top end that is actually really cool. A 5 magnet is that more aggressive, like, I don't want to say upper treble or mid peak or whatever, that moves when you, depending on how hot you wind them, and it's JB and, you know, all those pickups. And the SSH Plus is a really nice sounding pickup, actually, if you want ticket to sustain fat mids, like, you know, it's a really good sounding pickup. I've never A-B'd them. I would have to A-B them to give you a great answer. But I did play one recently. It's in John Sur's signature guitar, and I was A-B'ing it. Like, it's a distinct difference between, say, something like a Thornbucker Plus. You know, it's way more, just way more drive, really. I mean, it's louder. It's just louder. So it's like notes are fatter and all that. But it's not gonna do a cleanup thing. Well, roll the volume down and anything cleans up, but it's just a different sound, you know? So I don't know I can't really comment on the custom versus the A5, other than I will say the custom's probably, I'm just like, I hear that A2 thing in every A2 pickup I try with the warm top end and stuff. How that fares with your amp and your pedals, and depending on the amp tone you go for and stuff, is another story, you know? But certainly for the Van Halen thing, I do think overall, if you're trying to get anything from Van Halen, like, really what I learned yesterday was that Van Halen 2, or, you know, Van Halen, like, let's say Van Halen 2, if that's the sound you like, then I think it really largely in the tremolo guitar, the A2 9K thing. Fair warning, you know, 14K, probably Alnico 2, you know, is a good way to go for those tones, the hotter thing. The difference between Somebody Get Me a Doctor and Unchained, I think. For the Unchained sounds, I like that hot 14K thing. For the Van Halen 2, the 9K thing. Yeah. Loot 89 is there in the super chat. What's happening? Where are you? There you are. Maybe not up your alley, but I've been having an open jam every Saturday with my friends, kids, and neighbors at my home. One of my buds is lugging his PA system, looking for a decent portable PA system with Bluetooth. A decent portable PA with Bluetooth. The Bose is the one that I tried recently that has all that. So the Bose sound, what do they call it? You know, it's the one that's with the stand-up tower and the sub in the bottom, but it's a mixer too, and it's got an app, and it's all Bluetooth and everything. So look at those Bose systems. They're really nice for, I think, for what you want to do. And thank you for doing the super chat. You can see the video I did on one recently, and I think I Bluetoothed the track up to it and played through it. I think I Bluetooth drums up to it in the video. And I sent them out of my computer via Bluetooth into the thing, and then I played along and mic'd it in the room, so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. Doug Lorig is up there in the super chat, and he's asking if I've ever played a Canadian JCM 800. You know, it's interesting. There's 2 of them in the building right now. Heard they sound hotter than the US-made ones. I don't know about hotter, but there's some interesting things with them. Number one, when they moved to 6550s in the US, they stuck with the EL34s in the Canadian versions. Who knows why? And the other thing that's interesting about them is that they only have a 4 and 8 ohm tap on the transformer. Canadian 412s evidently were 8 ohms. So, and they stayed 16 in the States. I mean, this is distributor stuff, I guess, where the distributors in Canada must have spec'd that's what they wanted. And, you know, it's kind of interesting, right? I don't know why. Like, I'd love to know the reasoning behind that, because I'm a nerd, and why do I care? But it's like, it's just kind of interesting. Why were they different? Why no 16 ohm tap on the Canadian versions? That's a possible idea for a YouTube video, maybe. If I can get my hands on one of those Canadian ones, I'd have to borrow it because it's someone else's. But to try it maybe next to, you know, the various incarnations of 800 might be interesting. To be honest, I'm not really a fan of that amp. So that's the thing. If you mod them, they're cool. You know, but I don't like the stock 800 voicing that much. I find them to be a little bloated and a little ice picky at the same time sometimes, you know? Like, I'm much more the 4-hole 68 to 73 kind of fan than I am the JCM 800 with the cascaded cold stage, more low end, pre or post EQ master, you know, thing. Just whatever. I don't know. I just don't really. You have to mod them in order. It's not a bad amp in basically, but it needs some tweaks to the circuit. And then if you tweak them, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, a PT100 is a really not that far off from a, you know, JCM 800. It's just tweaked, you know, and modded. And so, yeah, you missed my second chat, says Godsmayer. Sorry about that. Does your H9 clip in the loop? No. They will handle fairly hot line level. You got to kind of be somewhat careful. I can clip, like the loop on a PT15 is relatively hot because John just doesn't like patting them down that much. In a PT100, you've got a pedal level or line level switch to take it, you know. And I usually run it at pedal level because I think it's fine. But John just, you know, so these are some of the things that we sometimes will disagree on things. But I'm always like, dude, I don't care, and I don't hear a difference. If it's pedal level, it works great for me. And he just doesn't like it because he knows from a design perspective. I mean, I understand what's happening with a pedal level loop is you have to pad it way down to then send out to your pedals. And then when it comes back, you have to gain it way back up again. So that's not optimum because you're, you know, but he's so good at it that I don't hear a problem because the way he does it, it just sounds great. So if you got a substandard loop, it might suck if you don't pad it right and then pull it back up right. I guess it could change the tone or add noise or, you know, that kind of thing. Anytime you're gaining things back up again after a preamp, I think you run the risk of, if you don't do these things right, it can get noisier and hissy and stuff like that, you know. So anyways, in the PT15, there's no switch for the loop level. So we just picked a kind of like, it's on the hot side of pedal level and it's on the low side of line level is kind of what we did in that amp. And the masters for the individual channels are your sends to go out to the loop. If you run those up rather high, like say around 5 on the clean channel, and you're using an H9, you might find that you start clipping the H9, even with it set to the maximum kind of headroom. So, you know, the answer is to turn down the master a little bit on the front of the PT15 to 4 or something. And then if you need more volume, you just bring up the other master because it comes after. It's your loop return, really. And the sound's the same. It doesn't change anything. I mean, some people might argue that that's not one person say on a PT15 they like to run the masters really high, like above 5 or 5. And, you know, and they say that sounds better like that. I don't know. I mean, if you just turn up I guess it will potentially load the EQ differently or something. But if the master's up at 4, I think you're basically there. And then if you need more, you just turn up the loop return. And if that works for your effects, you know, I mean, you can run them however you want if you don't have anything in the loop. You just have to be aware of some balancing act of like not overdriving effects and things like that, you know. So all these things, you know. matter. It's good to be aware of where the sends are in your amp for something like this. So if it's the math, you might find like whatever amp you're using, you know, that you can turn down the channel masters, and you'll see the level go down out to the H9. It's nice to have some way to control send and return, and so we did that with the channel masters and the loop master on the PT15, and it's the same in the PT100 actually. The channel masters are the sends. It's just you've got a little more ability to with the line and pedal level switch on the PT100. You have a little more, well, substantially more actually ability to kind of fine tune the loop levels. Bruce says, I believe the only difference in the Canadian Marshall would be the power transformer. But what about the output transformer? Because the output transformer doesn't have a 16 ohm. It's the output transformer that has the impedance, right? Like the tap, right? For 4, 8, and 16. Am I right about that? I think I've got that right. StuMac has Dunlop pots. They say, I think you're saying never get scratchy, Lauren, and are rated for 7 million turns. Dunlop super pots are about 23. Wow, are they really? Okay, I didn't realize they were that much. Well, there you go. That's why they're so good. They're probably made by that American company that makes the you know, there's only a few companies that make these things, you know. So that's interesting. $23. Wow. Well, there you go. Worth it. For if you got one volume pot on a guitar, I would just get one because it's, you know, hey, it's the price of 2 artisan beers, right? It's worth it. I don't know if you're into alternative music at all, says James, but I've been getting into this album called Your Sofa King. Todd did. It's got some gorgeous clean tones. I'd like to hear that. That sounds interesting. YouTuber, how do you say that name? Huge says JCM 800s were made for the Scandinavian market. Sounds more aggressive. I don't know if it's true, but his 800s are indeed way more aggressive and not modded. That's interesting. I mean, it could be, you know, I have heard the thing about Canadian 800s sounding different. Maybe it's voltage. I don't know. I was talking with Dave Friedman about that, and he was mentioning that Canadian 800s have a real healthy voltage and that they sound better, and that some US 800s had like 430 volts or 300 something. I can't remember, but that the Canadian ones are like, or maybe that's the Canadian ones that have the 400s and the US ones had the 300s. And he was saying it was about 2 reliability. That would make sense because if they went to the 6550s in the US, I think that was in large part tube reliability and warranty stuff. And so that would make sense. They were lowering, you know, dropping voltages in order to not, you know, drive the tubes at the limit of what they were capable of and stuff like that. And yeah, so that all adds up, I would say. But they just didn't do that in Canada and Scandinavia, maybe. It's interesting. Yeah, I don't know what that means either, Gab. Is that what you meant to say? We Sofa King, we Todd did. I'm not sure. Where do I? Yeah, I would like to hear that though. I would like to hear this record you're talking about with the gorgeous clean sounds, but I'm not sure what to search for. We Todd. I know Big Head Todd. I don't know what I should be looking for. Yeah. Rob says, "Oh, it's a joke." I don't get it. I'm a literal kind of guy, and sometimes things go over my head. Nick Purdy says, thinking of Thornbuckling my PS Custom 24, is that going to be as rad as I think it will be? I've heard nothing but good things from people putting Thornbuckers in PRSs. They generally say, like, these are great, like in this guitar. So I've heard that a few times. So, yeah. I've never played 2 Marshall amps that sounded the same. I have. If you do them to the same spec, they're pretty friggin' close, generally speaking. I mean, it's just they were kind of all over the map when it comes to spec. And then when you get different tubes and people retube, and it's like now they start drifting, you know. But if you do, I mean, I know what you mean. There can be variety in voltages and things. And it's like part tolerance, pot tolerance. I mean, that's a thing, you know. But You know, it's funny, like knowing these guys that work on amps that are kind of geniuses with these things. They all say like once you've cracked the code and you figure out, okay, like here's the spec for this sound, or here's the spec for this sound, and if there's this one doesn't sound good, oh check, oh yeah, I need to replace this cap or filter caps or whatever. They know how to like you can kind of make pretty much most Marshalls sound at least really good, you know, if you just know how to. I mean, there's those that seem to stand out for some elusive reasons sometimes, but and sometimes some just aren't. They're like underwhelming for elusive reasons, but for the most part, you can make them dial them in to be a pretty cool, you know. Once you know, and similar, I guess is the point. Remember to say happy birthday to Steve Vai. I did that already this morning. He said he's having a great day. That's what he hit me back with. But that's awesome. So it's his 61st, I do believe. Thanks for your review on the Nunaber Immerse. Best reverb pedal I've ever played. Yeah, Nunaber, great pedals. I often say underrated. That they need to partner with me and make the ultimate multi-effect device. I would love to do that with them. Something with switching and stuff. Yeah. I've got to turn my YouTube on earlier on Sundays. I've often thought about starting the show later because it seems like most people start to tune in. Like we've got 523 people online. It seems like after the first hour or hour and a half, it picks up. But then I would miss the folks in Europe that need to go to bed because it's Sunday. You know, so it's. I just think 11:30 seems to work out good. Yeah. Michael says I use an Iridium with my Model 12 mixer. That's an interesting rig. That's the Tascam mixer that is also an audio interface, but looks kind of old school. I'm struggling to get the ping pong stereo effect from a Volante to work. What cable do I need to send my guitar signal to one stereo channel? Well, I can't remember right now on a Model 12 what the inputs are for the stereo channel. Is it a combo, like is it a TRS jack that splits to left and right? Because what you would need then out of your Volante is a 1/4 inch, you know, 2/4 inch male left and right going to a TRS stereo style 1/4 inch jack plugged into the stereo. I guess I could look really quick, give you an answer. Let's see if I can figure that out really quick. Tascam Model 12. Let's take a look. Let's put on. I'm going to do some work for you here, my friend. We're going to solve all your problems. Images. Google image search. Oh, does it show me the back panel though? There's the back panel from Model 12. Okay, let's see here. Oh, God damn it. I'll tell you what. Maybe later I create an account. I don't want that. I'm just trying to solve this fellow's problem. Hover to zoom. Okay. The stereo channels. Yeah, it looks like. Use the stereo channels have a left and right input. So like it's channel 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. It looks to me like you've got the standard kind of combo jack on the top with an XLR and 1/4 inch, and then right underneath there's these two jacks that say R for right, for 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. I think you just use two cables out of your Volante into the the left and then that bottom right input. So I'm gonna make this very easy for you by taking a photo and then showing that photo on the screen here. You see that? See the lines leading to the right? Are inputs there. So just use two guitar cables and one of those go from, you know what I mean? Like, so pick 7 or 8 or 9 and 10 and go left and right. Does that make sense? Should work in theory. In theory. Do you ever use batteries for pedals or always a power supply? You know, occasionally it's like in fuzzes and stuff. I've got a like a hot fuzz from BAE, and it's got an odd size power jack on it. It's like the 2 point whatever instead of the 2.1. And they last so long in fuzz pedals because they have such low draw on the battery that I just put battery in that pedal. It's not on my board. I use it for recording and stuff. But rather than plug it in here in a power supply and deal with it, it's just like I don't have that cable where I just put battery in it. I've got batteries around. We've got a bunch of these around here. Those it's Dan Electro, like old school. What do they call them? Like, I don't know. They're not the alkaline batteries. They're the other ones that are supposed to sound better in fuzzes, but they don't last as long. So I've got a box of those around here. So I'll just pop those in fuzzes and stuff sometimes. That's the only time I really use them. Yeah. Ed's Marshall was a Plexi. Plexi's never had 6550s. That's true. He used to use 68.7s. He actually told Friedman, I guess, that his favorite tubes were Telefunken EL34s, I believe. I think that's right. Like old ones, the metal-based ones. But they went to the 68.7s because they seemed more reliable. That was the main thing. I don't know if it was a tonal thing. Sylvania 68.7s are a little more robust. And 6550s, actually, I think he may have had 65, like in some of the, because, you know, the thing about Friedman is he serviced a lot of his amps. And I seem to remember, don't quote me on this, but I seem to remember Dave saying that he's seen 6550s in some of his amps before when they came through. But I could be wrong about that. I'll ask him again. But yeah, you're right. They never used 6550s from the factory. They went to 6550s in the mid 70s when EL34s started to be like whatever. European ones were just less reliable at high voltages and stuff. And yeah, so a lot of Marshalls came with 6550s that were bound for the US, but they stuck with the EL34s in Canada, I do believe. I think that's what happened, as I remember. Ben says I missed a super chat. The answer is actually I don't know the answer to that, guys. What is he doing on the fade out of 1 foot out the door in Pound Cake? I'd have to go listen. I can't think of it right now. Sorry, guys. I know sometimes I suck. I don't have all the answers. I can't be expected to know it all. No, I don't know. Michael there in the super chat says, thanks for the help on the Iridium Volante. You're welcome, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. In the 70s, Marshall used 6550 for US. Yeah. But still the L34 elsewhere, I do believe. So what's the, you know, it's like, I guess maybe it was like a US distributor thing or something where they were like, we're not going to, these amps suck with these tubes. We're going to, you know, they're probably complaining or something. And Marshall said, fine, we'll ship these other ones, you know. And everywhere else, they got EL34 still. Of course, to be noted, like you can convert a Marshall that's optimized for 6550s to EL34s very simply. It just requires a couple resistor changes or something, I think. It's nothing that a competent tech can't handle. So it's all like not that big of a deal. There's some of the things that might be more difficult to deal with are the voltages. You can't really, you know, if you get a 70s Marshall that's low voltages, it's not really something that you can compensate for very easily. So, yeah. Steve says, thanks for considering our sleep patterns this side of the pond. It's 2120. Yeah, I know if I go too much later, like folks on a Sunday, you guys got to get up for work and stuff over there. France and Scandinavia and the UK and stuff, you're not going to have time to watch me ramble about amps. You got to go to bed. You're competing with Nita Strauss's Patreon. Something tells me that most of the folks that watch Nita's Patreon stream are probably not interested in our amp geekery over here. It's a different, you know, the guitar community is vast and diverse, I guess. Plugged into channel 7, 8, or 9 and 10. Thank you, says Michael. Yeah, you're welcome, dude. No problem. I hope that works. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got here? Lull, do you sense an uncomfortable silence? Just looking for other questions. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know the answer to that. I'll have to listen. You got me thinking about what's on the end of Pound Cake. Can't remember what he played there. So, I don't remember, to be honest. What's happening there musically speaking. I've read that Jimmy Page used KT88s in his Marshalls. I think I've heard that too. That could very well be. Billy Corgan also like KT88s. You can convert Marshalls to work with, some different tubes. Those are the ones that come to mind for sure. The KT88, KT77, 6550s, EL34s, 6CA7s. It's true. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Seymour Duncan convertible needs repair. Send it to Friedman. Rack Systems at yahoo.com. Hit him up. He'll fix it for you. They are interesting amplifiers. I had a good friend, Al Vermew, that was a great guitar player that used to get some terrific sounds out of those Seymour Duncan convertible amps. He used them he used 3 of them, as a matter of fact, for a wet, dry, wet rig in the 80s. It was pretty forward thinking. He always had great guitar sound. And he used one as the main head and then split out. I can't remember exactly how he did it, but he had 3 running. 3 heads with a stereo kind of situation. It's pretty cool. Do the KTs have a higher headroom? Generally speaking, yeah, I think you can kind of get more power out of them, and you can get like 75 watts out of 2 of them, I think, or something. So higher headroom and different sound, Yep. On that note, I'm going into lurk mode while starting dinner, says Ben. Gotta have starting dinner. 4:27. You guys eat early out there on the East Coast of Canada, right? You're not even really on the East Coast, are you? Or maybe you are. What town are you in, Ben? Can't remember. Have you ever tried those EMG pickups? You were looking for complete noiseless. I'm still waiting for that guitar. I'm going to look into that this week because I can light a little fire and see where that guitar is. The EMG folks are asking me too. I will say my friend Lauren actually stopped by here and let me check out his EMG loaded guitar, and it was relatively noisy. I mean, not any more so than any other guitar, but it wasn't as quiet as the mystery is. My bass that has whatever pickups that Warwick uses, famous Warwick. It's an active pickup in my bass, and it is silent. A little bit of hiss, that's it, but like no buzz at all. And then there's another guitar around here that has Fishman fluents in it that are the closed fluents, completely enclosed fluents, not the more open coil, modern looking ones. And the closed ones are pretty much dead quiet. It's another thing in the EVH pickup video you're going to hear is noise from pickups. How, and that has to do with the humbuckers. It's really interesting. Like in the super distortions, they're generally quite quiet. And the thing about this is a super distortion. You hear about mismatched winds in pickups, like, when one coil's got more wire than the other. But another factor is the metal in each coil, like whether there's a screw coil and a slug coil in a humbucker, like most of them have, right? Screw and slug. In a super distortion, it's those Allen screw poles. And because the metal is so balanced in each coil, they're very, very quiet. Like the hum canceling is superior. I know that's not the only factor. I mean, there's the tone and stuff of a pickup too, but the coils are balanced wind. This is basically a mirror image of one another. So they balance, humbuck. They buck the hum a little more efficiently than the other types of pickups and if you've got a pickup with a mismatch coil, like let's say a Thornbucker, it's a great sound and I love the Thornbuckers, but they just there's no physics wise, they can't be as quiet as that pickup because there's a mismatch in the coils and there's a screw coil and a slug coil and stuff. So that's the thing. It's interesting, and you'll hear it in the you'll hear it in the video because my room here is noisy. It's driving me crazy. It's just the power transformers around here and stuff. you know, outside on the poles and that kind of nothing I can do about it. It's not this building, it's the where the building's located. What guitar VST sounds best to you? I actually don't use any VST plugins. I'm a Mac guy, so I'm more, I know there's Mac VST, I guess, but I'm more the, what is it, AU, Audio Units plugins. But the guitar ones that I use are mainly the UA, like I have a signature plugin. So that's my favorite amp plugin, really, is just my own signature because it sounds so much like my amp. They nailed it, really. But some of the other ones I really like are the neural plugins. You know, Amplitude is ridiculously full-featured. It's got so much stuff in it. I'm going to do an Overloud review soon. Nembrini is another one that I quite like, and they developed my plugin, I do believe, for Brainworks and UA. So there's a bunch there of plugins I dig. Is there any truth to rumor Ed's Plexi was a UK model and he didn't realize he needed to set the voltage to 110 instead of 240? Not quite. I believe his was I believe he plugged in a UK model at some point and it didn't work, and then slowly came on because it was set for 240 and he was giving it 110. And he realized that it was so quiet, and that's where he got the idea for the Variac. But his amp wasn't that amp, I don't think. I think that was a different, like a UK spec amp. And then he got his amp and then started messing with varying the voltage to the standard, the 110. Any experience with Musicraft neck? Sorry if already answered, but I had to dip out of the stream for a minute, says T-Top. This is a Musicraft neck right here. Funny you should mention. I believe canny body on this guitar. Hard ash body and a Musicraft bird's eye neck. And this neck, bird's eye is notoriously kind of unstable. Actually, it's actually not a bird's eye neck. It's a maple neck with a bird's eye fingerboard, so that's why it's stable. But it's a beautiful fingerboard on this guitar, and this is a good neck. It's nice. I mean, really nice. This is just a Frankie spec neck, I think. Yeah, it's a good neck on that guitar. And it's got that kind of cool, like the squared off, almost looks like a telly, like kind of end with 21 fret. It's just neat. Looks right for that style guitar. It's solid kit necks they make, I think. Talking about active pickups. Jay says, I have EMGs there, dead silent. Actives are pretty quiet usually. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if it's got something to do with the grounding scheme or whatever or something. We'll see what happens when I get this guitar that's got EMGs in it. So having a guitar, it's basically the Steve Lukather style set with the slightly hot vintage style singles and then the 85 bridge, I think is what's in this guitar that is coming. But I'm just experimenting with trying to get a very silent guitar for in this room when I need a really quiet guitar. Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. Chris says, speaking of Thornbuckers, I had a chance to play your signature guitar in your hometown, local shop. It must have been at Stang, right? In Edmonton. It's a nice, Tyler's a nice guy, and he's got a beautiful store. That's a really nice music store on the south side of Edmonton, where I grew up. And I'm glad you like the guitar. Thanks. Yeah. Let's see here. Simon says that he was going to move to Japan. How interesting. Two of my favorite countries. Going to move to Japan, but still stuck in Denmark. It's not a bad place to be stuck because that's a beautiful country. I love Denmark. My friend Tracy Guns moved over there, who unfortunately I was supposed to hang with him this week, and it's been such a crazy week. I've just been so busy. We were going to get together and have a meal or something, and I don't think it's going to happen before he leaves. So, it's unfortunate, but I would really love to actually come hang with him in Denmark at some point because that's a great place. And I know he's got a nice pad there and stuff, and he splits his time between the U.S. and Denmark these days. Pretty cool. Let's see. What else we got here? Lauren says, let me know. Maybe I need to work on my guitar. Yeah, I'm not sure if the noise issue with your guitar is just we'll see when I get another guitar with them, and if it's quieter. I'm just not sure, We'll see. Lechley has a relatively new DC filter for $60. Looks cool. I wonder what that does. I'm just gonna look here. DC. I'm gonna open up a web page, so don't forget to look later. Eliminates DC voltage. Ugly switching noise. Yeah, I don't think that will solve my issues. DC filter. DC voltage from analog signals. I don't think that's what's going on with me. I've got just this noisy room, that just guitars in this building are noisy. Jay says the EMG Luke said is what I have. Yeah, that's the one I got. And I asked Lukather about it actually and said, I'm getting your pickups for this guitar. And, just due to noise in my room and stuff, and it can be problematic sometimes. And he said, well, that's why I got them originally in the late 70s, early 80s when they came out or whatever. He said it was noise in studios. That's what I was trying to do, So we'll see if they solve my issue. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. A moment of silence for how awesome Steve Lukather is. Yeah, he is awesome. Great dude. Super amazing musician. What guitar is that? Says my knees hurt. That's my Particicaster. This is a guitar a guy built years ago, and he put it up on eBay, and I bought it. And it's basically Van Halen spec, like a Frankie body. So it's got the crazy cutout for the pickup and all that, and the Floyd, and all the Van Halen stuff. But he aged it, I guess, to look like Blackie, Clapton's Blackie. So it's like and I thought that's cool. Like, it's a beautiful guitar, I think. I like the tortoise shell. It's a little Particicaster-y. It's got a great big heel, and kind of like it's a little clunky, and it really required some hardcore setup from a couple different techs to get it dialed in. The nut was way too high when I got it, and a few other things, and tuning stability is a little shaky, but like even with the Floyd and stuff. So old 80s Floyd, so it's like the real deal with the wood screws and all that, for the posts. When it's decked. But it sounds cool. It's got an aggressive, bright sound to it, especially with this pickup that's in. It's a Motor City 2nd degree black belt. Actually, I love the pickup that's in this guitar, and it always sounds really cool. But there is a part of me that kind of now wants to maybe experiment with trying an Alnico 2 pickup in this guitar. Even though it sounds, this guitar, I've used it in some videos, and people are always like, it's got a really cutting, aggressive, cool rock sound to it. But I would like to know just the A2 slightly rounded off thing, because it's just, but maybe that's what's special about that guitar is that sound. So maybe I shouldn't mess with it. I don't know. It's always a balance, isn't it? Do you ever play acoustic much? Well, I just did a video last week. Do you play fingerstyle? I'm not like fingerstyle is not really my like a little bit I do, and I can do it, but I have to work at it a little bit to get back up to speed and all that. And it's just not really my thing, but I do like it sometimes. I'm just generally a basic acoustic kind of player, like Travis picking. I mean, I can play, Dear Prudence and stuff, no problem, but it's just never totally been my thing. So, but I love playing acoustic, and the last video I put out was that Taylor video with 5 different acoustics in it. I just didn't play any fingerstyle in it. I'm like Tommy Tedesco, just everything with a pick. I always appreciated that about him. Dinner's done in the UK already. What are you eating tonight? I don't know. That's a good question, Dave. Thanks for the super chat. Something delicious. I'd like to eat something healthy tonight. Ooh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get a salad after this from this place that makes incredible, delicious salads. Healthy, super huge. I need a salad in my life right now. I need a little more. Need some fiber and some greens. Zed says, have you ever tried a power regeneration device? You could try something like PS Audio Stellar Power Plant 3. Let me open that up in another window too. I'll look at some of these things. What's it called? The PS Audio Stellar Power Plant 3. PS. Here's the thing. One time in this building with the audio things that I have going on around here, I tried a battery powered amp. No power. Shut off the power to the building actually from the main fuse box. So battery powered my little Black Star Fly 3 with the gain cranked up and turned up the guitar. Same noise. And that's when I mean, all right, it's got nothing to do with the power or the building or anything like that. It's in the air. There's no power happening right now. It's a battery powered amp. And then when I walked back from the building behind and got further and further away from the street and the power transformers that exist around here, you know, I'm talking those big old things out on the power poles. It got better and better and better and better, you know, 15 feet away, 25 feet away, back behind the building. And now it's basically quiet. And it's like, it's nothing I can do. It's just the proximity. So what I would have to do is completely shield this whole room, which you can do, but it's expensive. So requires like, you know, shielding the room and then tying that to a ground and all that. And, you know, you use there's like mesh, you know, you can do it in the walls. My friend Lauren pointed out that then you've still got the door to contend with. And so you have to then, you know, it's just like a whole thing. I don't know. So this is what studio builders are good at, I guess. Yeah. Canada versus Finland, hockey. Oh, oops. There, I got it. Who are you cheering for? You know, I'm not following that at all. I'm sorry. I've just been in pickup land. Pickup land. What are your favorite pots? We were just talking about that. I've had good luck recently with the Dunlop Super Pot, but I guess they're $23 each. Quite expensive, so that's interesting. You know, but that seems to work pretty well. Yeah, Faraday cage. That's correct, says Derek. You build a Faraday cage using, you know, it's like a mesh that surrounds your entire room that you're in, and then you tie it to ground, and it shields, and then you also get no Wi-Fi reception or cell phone, but who needs that anyway in the studio, right? You don't even want that. Yeah. I don't mind buzzing the guitar, but hate noise because the room is just noisy. Well, it's the one and the same usually, I think, many times, you know, that stuff that gets in with guitar pickups. Lauren says you could run a ground to the metal door, right? Yeah. That's what I would have to do. So someday when I am not in this facility anymore, I'll think about these things. But for now, I just deal with it. Yeah. Do you play on your tellies very much at all anymore? I just picked one up not long ago after playing only Strats and Les Pauls. I'm very impressed. You know, a telly is just, there's something about it. It's just a plank that is a music-making fun tool, you know? I love tellies. I play I'd like to get my 66 set up, actually. It needs a little love, you know. But I love picking it up and playing it in videos and stuff. I just needed to get, you know, a little bit of a setup done. Sorry, I'm missing some super chats here. Up there in the Kyle says, check out Dunable Guitars. I have heard those mentioned, and I haven't had a chance to check one out, but I should. You know, I should give those a go and see what's going on. Just so much gear, so little time. That's all it is. And 777 Donnie is there in the super chat. Says, thanks for the Sunday guitar time. Thank you. And I will get some coffee. It's almost time for more beans around here. We'll do that. Bruce says, if I have my single coil guitars facing my monitors, I get terrible loud hum. You know, it's interesting with humbuckers and single coils in this room. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but like single coils, I have to be this way, and then I can get them almost dead silent at one point. Humbuckers, depending on the humbucker, it's either this way or this way. And so even with humbuckers, there's a quietest spot, but it's never totally quiet. And the single coil at the right spot is quieter than even a humbucker in this room. And when I'm right here with a humbucker and it's as quiet as it can be, but still buzzing away a little bit, if I flip the guitar like this, then it gets quiet. That doesn't really help me because I have to play on my back. But right here, you know, there's a way that you can cancel it. It's crazy. What can you do? I'm trying not to worry about it too much. I just play. This is stuff that happens in everything you hear me do. So obviously it can't be that big of a deal because nobody's like, well, there's so much buzz in your songs. What's the best lo-fi recording you have heard? The best lo-fi recording. Well, generally when a recording is really lo-fi, I think it's more about the vibe or the song, like old blues or something, where it's like you hear like, you know, like if you mean like, do you mean like intentionally lo-fi? The best lo-fi recording. I don't know. I have to really think about that. I mean, when I used to collect Beatles albums, I've got a lot of old, you know, like live in Hamburg and stuff like that kind of recordings and stuff, because on LP, you know, where they used to make these bootlegs, and generally speaking, they, you know, a lot of those recordings can not sound very good, you know, but it's about the vibe and at least it was recorded and the experience of being there and stuff, you know, I guess. Vincent says, any advice for using the Mac Mall with P90s? What amp settings do you enjoy using? I'm new to P90s and these seem loud. A P90 to me is just a raw single coil that's more powerful than a Strat or a Tele, generally speaking, unless it's a broadcaster style. Literally single coil can be kind of P90-ish, you know. But I just think Pete Townsend, like, isn't Live at Leeds all probably P90s? It's supposed to be that way. You know, they kind of kick ass. You know, I don't think the original PAF was designed to be that different sounding than a P90. It was just designed to be quiet. So, you know, probably pretty similar tonally. You know, they're just good, loud, raw, you know. Cool sometimes have a humbucker in the bridge and a P90 in the neck. That's a neat setup for the, you know, the variety of tones you can get out of those. But what amps and settings do I enjoy? I don't know. I don't really, I mean, with P90s, I used my Mac Mall on the Classic Rock Show tour with on the Who songs, you know, which was fun. Towards the end of the tour, I just kept my Les Paul because I was using it on, we were playing Beatles, you know, The End, Golden Slumbers, all that. And then we went into Won't Get Fooled Again. And I would change to the Mac Mall for the first part. And then I was just like, I'll just finish on it because my urine, I was using my urine. And it's got it, once again, actually, it's kind of the thing. It's got great sounding PAFs that are low output and designed to replicate those early pickups and not be too hot. So it wasn't different enough. That's the one great thing about my urine. It's like, and I think 59 Les Pauls in general and stuff is when you play like that style of guitar and it's right, they, well, you know, you think Jimmy Page, they're not really that much more powerful than a Telecaster or something like in the bridge position. You know, it's a similar sound. It's not the same, but it's like when I got my urine, I didn't have to go back and start turning the knobs on the amp when I'd moved from my Strat. It was like, oh yeah, this guitar just, that's the thing that I think people liked about vintage Les Pauls, you know, 57, 58, 59 Les Pauls is that they have a, you know, when they're not too hot, T-tops too. I mean, or even patent number pickups, like the pickups in my 335 are weak, man. They're like, you know, I've got single coil guitars that are probably just as, the Mac Mall, I mean, probably as hot as my 335. There's just not that much difference in the output. Yeah, and Gibson went even more that way in the 60s. I mean, T-tops, and, you know, if you use an Alnico 2 magnet, you got a pickup that's like 8K or sub 8, you know, 7.8 or something. It's an Alnico 2. It's a single coil almost, you know, as far as the output. So that's the thing, you know. It's yeah, I guess they're loud compared to Strat or something, you know, but they're not that loud, you know. Like they're right, I don't know, they're right in that range of where I like, you know, I like somewhere between 7 point whatever and 9K with Alnico 2 to Alnico 5 magnet pickups is just what's home base for me, you know. And then I dabble with the hotter stuff, like when the tone is, you know, it just paints you into a corner a little bit, like turning on a pedal would. That's all. That's what I find. You know, it's a little like you hit a drive pedal. So T-tops are weak, says Scott. Yeah, I mean, there's 7 point something, you know, and even my pickups in my 335 are they're not hot. They're 7 point, they're high 7s, you know, which is typical for Gibson 60s and 70s humbuckers. Yeah. I'm going to split pretty soon. It's 1:50. I've gone about 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'll hang for another 5-10 minutes and I'm going to go, but let's do a little bit more here. I've never tried this. No. G12S Pulsonic Cone Elements. No, what's that? Never tried that. I've never even heard of that. G12S. I don't think. David says, I love humbuckers in the 7K range. They can be super expressive. That's the thing. It's almost like single coils where you get all this, like, they got a more, you know, when you nail the amp with a hot pickup and the resonant peak moves and all that down and it's a lot of output, you just kind of paint yourself into that sound. And it's a great thing for some things, but it just won't do more, you know. Carson Depth is asking, what do I know about the boutique fire? That's the fire that happened at the boutique distribution factory. You know, I don't want to say more than I should because I'm not some authority on it, but I do know that, you know, there was a couple different buildings. There was a building, this is just stuff they've reported publicly as well, but it was a building that was being leased to subleased to a tenant. That was the main one that really got ruined. So that wasn't a boutique building. Their building was partially affected, but not catastrophically. You know, it's bad, but it's not like, you know, they're just figuring out what to do now in order to get back up and producing stuff. There's, you know, they're properly insured and all that. And at the end, it's a major pain in the ass, I think, for them. And at the end of the day, they'll probably, you know, be back up and doing what they've always done. It's just a question of time, how long that takes, and a question of, you know, what to do in the interim with, you know, they're going through, you know, they got to go through and look at all stock and parts and make sure everything's cool, and what's not cool, they need to figure out what to do with it and all that stuff. So there's all those factors that they're dealing with. But long story short, I think nobody was hurt. That's the main thing. And it's a fairly major pain in the ass, you know, that has implications for, you know, getting things, you know, product out and stuff like that in this, probably in the short term. And then they're just dealing with it and doing what they need to do, you know, and they'll come back and they'll probably be, at the end of the day, they'll probably be in a better facility that's, you know, where it's an upgrade, and 2 years down the road, they'll be like, well, everything's better now, you know, as far as what they're doing and stuff. But, you know, I know those guys, and I you know, besides, I will say this, like, you know, I made this pickup video with Dave yesterday. I mean, I was worried about him and how he would take this, and I've never seen anybody deal with something so, I mean, he was so chill, actually. He's like, well, I mean, he's got a great outlook, you know, just, you know, just another, you know, I got a great shrink every now and then I've seen it over the years. And he told me, he goes, you know, life is a series of problems, you know, and it's all about, it's not about everything running perfect and all that stuff. This is a fallacy. I mean, you know, things happen, people get sick, people pass away, you know, life's challenges just come at you, you know, natural disasters happen. You know, it's about how you deal with the problems that determines kind of your success and your happiness in life, because problems are going to happen. And I believe that's some of the best life advice I ever received. If you just view it like, well, basically, you know, life is hard, and now let's just get that out of the way, you know, and how do we just enjoy ourselves now and maximize and view things as being little, you know, roadblocks and bumps along the way, and things that you move past, and how you deal with adversity and problems sort of determines your happiness and your, you know, overall the sort of the success of your life, I guess, you know. So, and Dave's got a great outlook, you know. So great Sunday show this week. Videos this week, says Peter. Well, I'm going to try and get the pickup video done. Like, I'll try, like, you know, come hell or high water, I'd love to get it out by the end of the week. but it's a lot of editing. So I'm just really gonna have to put in the time this week, but I really want to do that. So I'd love to get that done. Now, beyond that, I've got a video for some pedals. Origin Pedals asked me to make a video of using their amp style pedals, so Revival Drive, you know, this guy, as well as the smaller version of this, and their trem pedal that has kind of amp style sounds in it as well, using them direct or through a power amp, no guitar amp involved, and showing that. So I'm making a video of that, like kind of the pedal board based rig using some of their pedals, or going direct into speaker simulation for those guys that want to run rigs like, you know, direct to front of house or whatever, make a small pedal board. And so that's happening. I've got to make a video, like I say, for overloud plugins. That's right. RJM has this great distortion pedal, that distortion overdrive pedal that's programmable, but all analog as far as the circuitry. I'm going to make a video for that. Got a video for some fuzz pedals and distortion pedals coming from Kuzak, right? I think it's called. I mean, just a ton of stuff to do. So those are the ones that come to mind right now. So we'll see. I've got super chats here. John is up there. Back to hotter pickups. I run the BE gain on 6 with, and thank you, Peter, for doing the super chat. I really appreciate it. Peter Evans. Back to hotter pickups. I run the BE gain on 6 with a PT Plus. PT Plus. Is that like a Thornbucker Plus? Run the BE gain on 6 with a custom, I think lower amp gain. Wouldn't that just push the power amp section more? That's a combination of things. I mean, the thing that happens with a hotter pickup is that the resonant peak kind of moves and the different magnet changes the sound. So hotter you wind a pickup, it changes the tone of and there's this resonant peak and you can measure it and it kind of moves and gets lower as you wind the pickup hotter. That peak being higher gives you more treble or more clarity on the top end. You wind it hotter, it kind of moves down lower and gets more into the upper mids. And then that's where you get that poke through the, you know, where a pickup can sound kind of mid-rangey when you know, so that's a thing. So you're just kind of fundamentally changing the way the pickup is hitting the amplifier output, but also the tone of the pickup. And you tend to get kind of what is almost akin to a treble boost or something. I mean, which can be an upper mid, and it depends where that peak happens, you know. And then, like I say, the sound of the magnet and other things like the wind, you know. I don't know how much a wind affects, like, you know, a pickup wound a certain way. People say it matters, you know, changes the sound of the pickup. I don't know anything about that stuff. I'd love to ask Seymour. What I do know is when you change the magnet, the sound changes. When you change the wind of each coil, how much turns of wire are on each coil, that changes. And these are the only things I've experimented with. I'd love to have somebody school me and go, okay, I wound this scatter wound, but this one I wound like this. Listen to the tone difference and then compare those two, all of the things being equal, you know? These are just things that I haven't, you know, who of us gets the opportunity to do these things, you know? I think I'm missing, I feel like I'm missing super chaps here. Super chats. I don't have any chaps. Certainly not in the assless variety. Arthur says, good show, yo. We'll talk later. Thanks for doing the super chat. I appreciate that, as opposed to the super chap. Speaking of Alnico 2, Megs says, John, I have a few guitars loaded with 57 Classics and SD Alnico 2 Pros. Great for classic rock. Yeah, you know, a 57 Classic is a Tom Holmes designed pickup, and I always thought it was pretty good too. It's Alnico 2, balanced coils, probably kind of warm. Just a good, I mean, I think I've had them in guitars before. Actually, I may have a one Les Paul that has those in them. A guitar that I should break out and use more because it's a long story. But anyways, it's just a guitar that I have, and it's a Les Paul Traditional, and I think that has 57 Classics in it. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, do you have a favorite guitar? Is always your first to pick up and play? Well, my signature guitars are, you know, I always say that's if I have to have one, that one does a lot of stuff. It's just super versatile and really easy to play, and it's the no-brainer. If I got to take one guitar somewhere, that's the one, you know, over my old Strat or over a 335, or if I just take that guitar, I know I can, if I don't know what I'm getting into, I can bring that and I'm covered, you know. So that with a couple pedals and away you go. Do you use different mic pre's for different things, or would you say one is a good all-rounder? I use the APIs, you know, 99% of the time around here, which basically 2 312 style pre's.
on my guitar cab. I just like them. They're punchy and forward and aggressive, and they sound cool. I've got a set of BAE that I used for years too, and now I'm not using as much, but they're nice. They're the 1073 style. And to me, the 1073 is fat, and it's got a little wool to it when you drive it hard. And I like them, but it's a little more laid back and a little bit bigger in its presentation. The API is just like, you know, so it depends. And then I got a tube pre here as well, a 610. I haven't really used it in years. It's nice, but you know, I just haven't used it in a long time. It's good. I do use the 1176 side of it though, because it's a 610. It's a 6176, which is like a tube pre on one side and a 1176 compressor on the other. So if I want a real 1176, that's my 1176 in this room. Yeah, I got a few others. I've got a Maris that's very unique because of it's got high and low cut filters, and you can kind of boost top end with it. Actually, it's got a simple 4 and 7 band boost on the EQ, like on a switch that's defeatable. And then it's got a low cut, and then it's also got a pedal level effects loop in it, which is amazing. It's a really unique mic pre with this pedal level loop that lets you like insert a fuzz pedal and use it on a vocal or on an acoustic guitar or a flanger or whatever. So it's cool. I did a video on it years ago, but that's a fun mic pre, and it's basically an API from what I understand. I've also got one of those warm pre's, the 500 series style API style pre that's in the rack now up there. And there's a DBX up there as well, mic pre. So I've got a variety of different mic pre's here. Favorite strings are Kyle says, are the Primo Slinkies, 9.5 to 44. That's the gauge I've been using lately. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah. What's this one? Al says, I just watched that never before seen Van Halen video. So this is love. I'd love to see that. I haven't seen that. I saw a version of I think it was Bottoms Up that I'd never seen from a tour that's good audio and pretty good video. I saw that this week. It's like, where did this come from? So it's interesting, some of the live Van Halen stuff that comes up. Pretty cool. Do you use any analog gear on your master bus? No, I don't. I just use plugins. I know people like to do that, but I'm always like, you got one more stage of ADD to go out and come back in then, you know? I don't, a lot of people do it. They'll use an SSL style bus compressor or, you know, Massenburg EQ or these different things that people use on their master bus, and they'll come out and then go back in, print back the mix back into Tools or Logic or whatever, but it's not something I've ever done. I just think the plugins are so good. Is it really worth going through that extra stage of ADD? Right? I don't know. Some people think it's fine. I guess if your converters are really kick-ass, it shouldn't matter, but you know, I don't know. Your thoughts on resonance peak changes, put language to what I've been hearing. It makes sense a little better. Perfect Sundays are coffee and guitars. Thanks, man. Oh, Alaska. Wow. You know, that's the one of 2 states I've never been to. Alaska and Montana. And I grew up next to Montana, and I never have been there. So that's insane. But yeah, I just never made it there to play a gig or on tour. So I made it to 48 of 50 states, but not Alaska and Montana. Love to see Alaska someday. Thanks for commenting. Appreciate that. Oh, this video was just posted an hour ago on YouTube, the Van Halen one. Okay, I should check that out. So this is love. I'm gonna look for that. I love when you guys tell me things and then I got, you know, search it out, gear or videos and stuff. It's fun. So just, you know, so I don't forget. I'll go watch. Fun. All right. Oh, we have a super chat up there. Somebody from Europe. Who is that? Monsma, Reamer Monsma. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for doing the super chat. No question, just doing your thing. Thank you. Yeah. Unbalanced pickup tends to sound closer to single coil. That's right, because one coil dominates more. And more balanced pickup has less hum noise. That's true. They just become less humbucking the more unbalanced you make them. And not necessarily better sound. I found like mismatching coils can sound weird if it's too much. But just a little bit. Like literally, I think it's like 50 turns or something. A Thornbucker ain't that mismatched, you know. And it has that great character. Like I say, we did a custom Thornbucker with an Alnico 2 magnet in it.
that John made for me, and it sounds great. It's really cool. You know, it's kind of on the lower wine side. I mean, it's an 8.7K for that style, because some of them, like the Pariah Pasadena White's 9.2. The next thing I want to experiment with is actually winding one up hotter, so Thornbucker, but hotter than we've gone before, and go with an Alico 2 magnet and see what that sounds like. Kind of like, I mean, it's not dissimilar to what, like I say, the Pariah or the EVH 78, or these different types of, sorry, not EVH, Seymour Duncan 78. For a while, they called it the EVH, the evenly voiced harmonics, but then they rebranded it. You know, rest is history. You know what I'm talking about. Somebody up there in the super chat. That's a super sticker from Lawrence. Thank you, Lawrence. You guys are too kind. You're keeping me, keeping the coffee stocked around here. The beans. We'll go get some beans. Have you ever tried a Boss tube amp expander similar to Power Station with built-in IR loader? I have. Yes. I have. Let's see what else we got here. Who makes your guitar? Is it Sir? Yes, my signature guitar is Sir. Do you happen to know what compressor was used on the original recording of Seasons? Oh, geez, I don't know. I have no idea. Sounds amazing. I don't know. Yeah, it does sound amazing. It's got a lot to do with the guitar having different strings on it. You know, you've got 2 low E strings, basically the gauge there, and they're tuned to, I believe it's F for Seasons. So they'd be up a whole step, and then the middle strings are all, you know, the tuned to fifths, I think. I've got that right, I think, on Seasons. It's been a long time since I played that song, but, you know, the guitar has such a cool sound when you put the right string gauges and then do that alternate tuning. So that's probably one of the biggest factors, but, yeah, that's a cool song. I used to love playing that song with Chris. One of my favorites. So, I don't know, it's just really dynamic and fun to play, and I used to get to sing on the bridge, and it was cool. Yeah. Old UK says very interested in Tracy Gunn's DiMarzio PAFs that he talked about, out of stock everywhere. You know, one of the pickups we did in the test yesterday was an old DiMarzio PAF. I think 8-point-something K, double cream, screw and slug coil, DiMarzio. That was a friend of Dave Friedman's, and the pickup looked like a mess. It's been like the edge is all worn away on the lower edge because this friend of his had used it forever. It's got wax all over it because the guy must have wax dipped it at some point. Because I don't, maybe it wasn't ever, potted, and then he potted it with the tape still on around it and everything. So it's just got kind of crap all the way around it. But it sounded good. I don't know what the magnet would be in it, but it was neat. I mean, it definitely sounded good. For those that, you know, if you haven't, you know, the one thing that was really crazy yesterday was the Super 70 did not impress me at all. So putting that in my Destroyer is not a great sounding pickup. Like, for whatever reason, it was a, you know, 8K or whatever Super 70 with, you know, I guess they're Alnico 8, and that pickup is not that sound, I don't think. So when one thing we did was drop a super distortion in that guitar, and there it was. You know, you really got me where it sounds like almost like a distortion pedal. You know, it's like, oh, boom. So I really think he had a super distortion in that guitar by the time he recorded that album. There's no pictures of it, so you know, but as soon as it turned into the Shark and he cut the thing out of it, it had a super distortion in it. So I don't know. He was always switching stuff up, but I can tell you right now that the sound of the Super 70 is not close. You'll hear when you hear the video. It's like, you know, as clear as a bell. So I don't know. Do I have any recommendations how we should mix our band through PA to hear ourselves better? We have a singer, guitar, bass, drums, keyboards. I don't think my singer can hear himself. Well, okay, number one, and I started talking about this at the beginning, was that balance your sound and volume of your band around your acoustic drum kit. That's the number one thing I can recommend. So really listen to the sound of your band around the drums with nothing through a PA. So the guitar and the bass should sound balanced, and get other people's, like, have them stand back from the band, walk around the room, wherever you're playing, listen, you know, really listen and really be critical. And if anybody's like, well, that's my sound, and you're a lot louder than that, well, it's going to be hard to balance then. That's the thing, you know. So whatever you got to do, you know, there's ways of doing this these days where you just don't have, I like loud, but I don't like that loud. Like I like moderately loud, and, you know, an acoustic drum set, the sound, the level of the snare is at, bring the guitars up and the bass and the keyboards to a level where that sounds balanced without any PA or whatever. Like keyboard player, I don't know, maybe they just have to run through the PA, but you know, the bass and the guitars, get that balanced around the drum kit. Okay, now bring in the PA and maybe just vocals, you know. If you're talking, I don't know if you're talking about a gig or a rehearsal here, but just put the stuff in the PA that you have to in the beginning, you know. If it's a rehearsal situation, just put the vocals in the PA, and now you don't have a bunch of instruments in there and competing for, you know, through the speakers. So you're kind of building up from the core acoustic drum kit, now mixing in the guitar and the bass amp, and like, okay, that sounds balanced in a room. Now let's bring the vocals in the PA. Can you hear yourself now? If not, then why not? Like, because it shouldn't be that loud. So there should be a problem. Shouldn't be a problem there. And if there is, maybe it's the PA, or maybe it's the singer's technique, or who knows what, you know. Singers, generally speaking, you know, they really like in-ears because you can just block things and then you can get your voice in there and you don't have to sing so hard, and that works. So that's another thing to consider, a simple in-ear rig of some sort, you know. But that's the main thing, is like building up from the drums, I think. So I would love to hear some Richie Blackmore tones. Richie's tone is always a bit of a mystery to me because he's so, you know, evidently using AC30s and stuff in the studio sometimes, especially in the early days, not those big, powerful Marshalls, you know. It's like Jimmy Page. We always think Les Paul and Marshall, but the reality was in the studio, you know, maybe Supro or Rickenbacker amp and a Telly. So it's like what they played live wasn't necessarily the thing that we see them with. So did Richie use, what was he using, you know? But I love Blackmore and Byrne and, you know, all that stuff. You know, it's great guitar sounds. You know, his elusive, you know, the Akai tape recorder story and all that, where he'd preamp and amp with it. That's pretty interesting. The unique guitar rigs of the 70s. Yeah. Well, guys, I think I should go. I'm going to go get some lunch and stuff and then get on with the workday here, because I got a lot to do with this pickup video. And then maybe, you know, if I get to working on this Origin video today, I'd love to get that out by Tuesday or something. That could be wishful thinking. It might be Wednesday, but making a video with the Revival drive and the Trem drive, or whatever, the one that's more like a blonde amp with a tremolo in it, and those different pedals I'll be doing videos for this week. But I thank you all for tuning in and being here every week. I really appreciate it. And I like your idea, whoever it was, mentioning that maybe I could do a tone talk with Dave once we put out the pickup video and talk about, that would be a good way to talk about his thoughts and answer questions and stuff in a forum like this. So I'm going to mention that to him. That's a good idea. As usual, you guys have always got great ideas. And thank you so much for your time, says Melanie. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. And we will close with Travis, and his singer has trouble staying out of jail. Maybe he likes it. Institutionalized living. You know, once you get used to it, you know, you don't want to be on the outside, right? Shawshank Redemption, you know. Anyways, everybody have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday. Thanks.